Chapter 472. In a rather exquisite cave abode, Huang Xiaoyan and Pan Yin sat cross-legged in the center. Pan Yin said angrily, "The guy actually took so many spiritual stones from a cultivator in the middle stage of the qi refining realm. He's too shameless." Fifth senior brother, you really believed him? Huang Xiaoyan snorted. Although I don't know if he was telling the truth, when he took my spiritual stones, I saw his storage bag. There was an obvious mark of the goo poison sect on the bag, exactly the same as the one of the person from more than a year ago. If he had nothing to do with the goo poison sect, he wouldn't dare to use such a storage bag. So I believe most of what he said. That's why I took out my spiritual immortal treasure in the end to attract his attention. Even if this guy doesn't bring us to meet the venomous parasite sect disciples in a year's time, he will invite people he knows to kill us. At that time, it will still be our chance. Pan Yan's eyes lit up. The people he invited are very likely to be cultivators from the goo poison sect. Huang Xiaoyan nodded and pondered for a while. Just in case, we have to make two preparations. First, we have to find out the identity of this cultivator who has completed the qi refining realm. Second, we have to go back and ask eldest senior brother and the others for help. Pan Yin was puzzled. Isn't it just to find out where the goo poison sect is? Huang Xiaoyan's eyes flashed coldly. Since the goo poison sect's foundation establishment disciples came out to carry out a mission, we can go all the way and kill them directly. Pan Yin didn't refute, which was rare. If it was in the past, he might have scolded loudly. But after years of experience in the Northern Barren State, his mind was not so rigid. The goo poison sect's disciples almost killed him and Huang Xiaoyan. This was a deep hatred in itself. It was natural for them to take revenge, just like Lu Kuan and the others wanted to destroy the miraculous gate for revenge. They were not like those evil cultivators who could turn on their friends at any time and disown their relatives. Even if they were blood brothers, they could still kill them when there was a conflict of interest. When Huang Xiaoyan saw Pan Yan's expression, he felt a little proud. Lu Kuan had always been worried about Pan Yan's character. If he were to roam the immortal cultivation world alone, no matter how strong he would not be able to live for more than a year. After all these years of hard work, Huang Xiaoyan had finally managed to change Pan Yan's mindset. Although this junior brother of his still couldn't help but interfere when he saw injustice, at least he wouldn't be blinded by it. He continued, "The reason why I want to invite eldest senior brother and the others is because I'm afraid that the two of us aren't strong enough. With the help of a few senior brothers, our strength will definitely increase greatly. Moreover, Master also said that we have to practice cooperating more. Secondly, with eldest senior brother here, even if a core formation cultivator makes a move, eldest senior brother will be able to detect it. This will greatly increase our safety. Thirdly, these things that are useful for body cultivators must be shared with the senior brothers. Who knows? Maybe they will be useful for Master's organs forging stage." Pan Yin agreed. Fifth senior brother is so thoughtful. Calculating the time, it should be about 5 years. Huang Xiaoyan smiled. Actually, this Huang Qian left us here not only to let us lower our guard, but also to monitor us and prevent us from escaping. He can monitor us? Then what we just said, isn't it? Huang Xiaoyan shook his head. Don't worry. Don't tell me you don't remember. When Master and I stayed in the southern Marsh province, we learned about the goo poison sect situation. We know that the markets here are all managed by other sections. This goo poison sect is like a hidden sect. And in this spirit swamp market, there are core formation cultivators from 2 other sects overseeing it. This temporary immortals cave has nothing to do with the goo poison sect. At most, there are some spies here. Speaking up to here, a trace of mockery appeared in Huang Xiaoyan's eyes. What a pity he doesn't know that body cultivators can change their appearance. Plus, our true cultivation is already at the early foundation establishment realm. When I came in, I already looked around. There is only a late qi refining stage man in the hall who is in charge of receiving ordinary guests. It is easy for us to hide from his eyes and ears. Hearing Huang Xiaoyan's words, Pan Yin was relieved. He said, "Then what do we do next?" Huang Xiaoyan said, "How about this? I will rent another Immortal's Cave as a foundation establishment stage cultivator. Then, Xiaoyan, you will go to the Abyss City and find second senior brother. Explain the matter to him. I believe second senior brother will support our actions. Also, 5 years is almost up. Let second senior brother bring the other senior brothers who have been in seclusion for 5 years. As for me, I will continue to investigate here. I will focus on observing the disciple of the venomous poison sect, who is called the Outer Deacon. In terms of operations, Pan Yin followed Huang Xiaoyan's lead. His experience in the northern Barren State in the past few years also showed that Huang Xiaoyan was more comprehensive than him. Therefore, the two changed their appearances and changed their clothes. They left the Immortal's Cave carefully. They secretly used the invisibility spell and easily deceived the man in the hall. After Pan Yin left the Immortal's Cave Inn, he revealed his early foundation establishment stage cultivation and flew to the Abyss Island on his flying tool. Huang Xiaoyan re-entered the Immortal's Cave Inn with his early foundation establishment stage cultivation. Under the flattery of the late Qi refining stage man in the hall, he rented a new Immortal's Cave Inn for a year so that he could go in and out frequently. In the following days, Huang Xiaoyan easily followed the Outer Deacon, who was suspected to be a disciple of the venomous poison sect with the means of a body cultivator. He gradually found out that this person was called Huang Qian. However, he was not a deacon, but a disciple who helped the venomous poison sect to contact the outside world. Moreover, this Huang Qian stayed in the Immortal's Cave Inn from time to ask the man in the Immortal's Cave Inn if they had left. He did not contact the venomous poison sect disciples. This made Huang Xiaoyan feel relieved. This meant that what this person said was true. The venomous poison sect disciples would come out a year later to carry out some disciples' missions. Unless this Huang Qian only wanted more than 700 spirit stones and was not interested in the level 1 spiritual celestial treasure. However, if he was not interested, why would he monitor the two of them? On the other hand, Pan Yan's journey was quite smooth. He came to the Abyss Immortal's Cave Inn and told Zhao Qingtian about his experiences over the years and his discovery of the silver silkworm venom and the corrosive poison. Zhao Qingtian heard that in addition to the sandstar worm meat that their master found, he found another thing that could speed up the body cultivator's body tempering. Moreover, it had a certain effect on the body cultivator realm after the bone tempering stage. Chapter 473. A year later, a middle-aged man stood arrogantly on a hill outside the Spirit Swamp Market in the southern marsh region. Beside him stood two mid-stage Qi refinement realm youths. It was Huang Qian and Huang Xiaoyan. Huang Qian looked at the two nervous people from the corner of his eye and felt proud. He, the one leading the team this time, is Uncle Master's cousin. He's at the mid-stage foundation establishment realm. He can definitely see the level of this spiritual immortal treasure. As long as he accepts it, he can help me exchange for the foundation establishment pill in the sect next time. Thinking of this, he looked at the two people beside him with a trace of disdain in his eyes. They looked to be at least 20 years old. With all the resources of a declining family, they're only at the mid-stage Qi refinement realm. It would be strange if Uncle Master took a fancy to them with such talent. If these two didn't buy so many talismans in the market, it would be troublesome. It's a bit troublesome for me to take action, but I've already dealt with them. Huang Qian's thoughts aside, there were a few figures hiding in the forest about 1 mile away from them. If one looked closely, one would find that they were two men, a woman, and a monkey. They were the first-generation body cultivator disciples, Zhao Qingtian and the others, as well as Xiao Jin. They were all using their divine senses to observe Huang Qian on the hill with interest. With their divine senses that were far beyond the early-stage foundation establishment realm, Huang Qian couldn't find anything at all. TSK, Little Yun's acting skills are really good. I reckon that many cultivators have been tricked by him over the years. The one who spoke was Zhao Qingtian. He was dressed in a long green robe and exuded a powerful aura. He looked at the nervous Huang Xiaoyan in the distance. Yuxian, who was standing at the side, was dressed in black. His handsome face and muscular body looked rather out of place. He sighed and said, "Second brother, They've made quite a name for themselves in the northern Barren State. They've even been listed as part of the Extreme Devil Palace's mission. Their progress in the outside world isn't any less than ours. He didn't call out Yuxian's name. He was a little emotional. They had already tested Huang Xiaoyun's body refinement cultivation and found that the degree of tempering of these two little junior brothers' bodies was only 2 or 3 levels lower than Yuxian's. For the past 5 years, Yuxian had been cultivating on Demon Spirit Island, relying on the abundant spiritual energy that even core formation cultivators would be envious of. Her body refinement cultivation had increased rapidly. However, Huang Xiaoyun and Yi Shiwen, who were training outside, were actually able to keep up with his progress. From this, it could be seen that they had experienced a lot of battles during this period of time, and it also showed that the so-called silver silkworm goo poison's tempering effect on the body was absolutely not simple. Creak creak. Xiao Jin, who was at the side, also interjected at this time. However, among these people, only Zhao Qingtian understood more. The others could not understand everything. Eldest senior brother already couldn't hold back and went to battle. It must have been hard for him to be able to cultivate in seclusion for 5 years with his temperament. Zhao Qingtian laughed very happily. He said somewhat excitedly, "Before I left, I went to visit Master. Regarding the goo poison sect, he told us to be careful and try our best to find the silver silkworm goo poison. If the situation is critical, then immediately kill the goo poison sect's disciples. After the battle, immediately hide your presence and return to Abyss Island. Once there, you'll be safe. When we return, we will give the silver silkworm goo poison and some other poisons for Master's study and see if there are any hidden dangers. After all, Master's body is much stronger than ours. Testing these poisons will be a piece of cake. If there are some poisons in the cultivation world that have miraculous effects on body refinement, then our cultivation speed will be even faster and we'll be able to enter the blood condensation realm sooner. Furthermore, Martial Uncle Zhu has successfully entered the core formation realm. With Senior Xiao, the treasure pavilion can relax a little and increase the speed of earning resources. I believe that in the next 50 years, our strength will increase by a lot." The others, including Sher Chao, were all excited. They were the first to know that Zhu Xiaofeng had successfully broken through. With this new core formation realm cultivator, the treasure pavilion and the body refining pavilion now had 3 core formation realm cultivators: Lu Kuan, Zhu Xiaofeng, and Xiao Hongfei. This had already reached the level of some small sections. Even if they provoked 1 or 2 core formation realm cultivators, they would not be too afraid. Ji. Suddenly, Xiao Jin opened his mouth and called out. Zhao Qingtian's expression tensed up. He said, "There are many Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators coming. Hide your presence and use the invisibility talisman. Act according to the plan." The others immediately followed his instructions. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared from the forest as if they were never here. On the other side, Huang Qian excitedly looked at the 8 Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators flying over. He was mainly looking at the dark-skinned man at the front. This was the cousin of his martial uncle Lu. This martial uncle Lu had a cultivation base at the peak of the middle stage of Foundation establishment. Like his martial uncle, he was proficient in all kinds of goo techniques within the sect. If he set them up properly, he could almost kill cultivators of the same level without being noticed. Not long after, the group of cultivators landed in front of Huang Qian. The man in the lead, martial uncle Lu, looked at the 2 middle stage Qi refinement realm cultivators and frowned. "Huang Qian, why did you bring low-level cultivators again? Do you want to let them enter my goo poison sect like last time?" Huang Qian heard the unfriendly tone in martial uncle Lu's voice and immediately said, "This time is different. Martial uncle, please step aside for a moment." When martial uncle Lu saw Huang Qian's eyes flicker, he had an idea. He brought Huang Qian and the 2 little guys to the side and released a thick soundproof barrier. "Speak. What benefits do you have this time?" The youth from last time had a triple attribute spirit root and his background was very clean. "My cousin reluctantly brought him into the sect. These 2 aren't young anymore. They're only at the middle stage of the Qi refinement realm. Their aptitudes are too poor. When he said this, the two young men revealed nervous expressions. Huang Qian quickly patted the two and shouted, "Hurry up and take out that thing." Only then did Huang Xiaoyan realize what was going on. He quickly took out a flying dagger magic tool. Huh? Martial Uncle Lu, who originally didn't care, immediately stared at the magic tool. He stretched out his hand and called it over. He whispered, "It's actually a level 2 spiritual magic tool. It looks quite powerful." Then he turned to look at Huang Xiaoyan and Huang Xiaolong, his eyes filled with confusion. At this time, Huang Qian explained appropriately, "Martial Uncle Lu, these two are disciples of a fallen cultivation clan. This magic tool was passed down from their ancestors." When Martial Uncle Lu heard this, a strange light flickered in his eyes. He nodded and said, "Good. Since that's the case, I'll take you into the sect. However, we have a mission to complete. You two stay here first. We'll take you away after completing the mission." After saying this, Martial Uncle Lu put away the flying dagger. He ignored the excited young man and said to Huang Qian, "What about the things the sect asked you to prepare?" Huang Qian immediately took out a storage pouch and handed it over. "It's all here. Martial Uncle, please check it." Martial Uncle Lu carefully inspected it with his divine sense and nodded with satisfaction. "Huang Qian, you did well. This way, there won't be any problems with this mission." Huang Qian immediately asked cautiously, "Martial Uncle, what about the next Foundation establishment pill?" Martial Uncle Lu smiled and said, "Don't worry. As long as you gather enough spirit stones, I'll use the sect's points to exchange for it." Huang Qian was overjoyed and repeatedly thanked him. Chapter 474. Huang Qian looked at the man surnamed Lu and secretly clenched his fists. As long as he exchanged for another Foundation establishment pill, he would be able to enter the Foundation establishment stage. Right now, he could barely be considered half a disciple of the Poison sect. He only cultivated basic techniques and some common magic techniques in the cultivation world. As long as I enter the Foundation establishment stage, no matter how bad my aptitude is, I can immediately enter the Poison sect and become an official disciple with my status as a core formation ancestor. If nothing unexpected happens, I will even be directly accepted by the ancestor as a disciple of a core formation senior. Not to mention Martial Uncle Lu, even Martial Uncle Tong will have to give me some face. After all, at that time, the ancestor will teach me some top secret techniques. Even if my cultivation is stuck at the Foundation establishment stage, my strength won't be too bad after learning these secret techniques. Moreover, the ancestor will very likely help me find a dual cultivation partner. Our Huang clan still needs to carry on our ancestral line and see if we can produce a disciple with better aptitude. Thinking of this, Huang Qian couldn't help but laugh. TSK. Isn't it just giving a Foundation establishment cultivator a favor and you're actually this happy? You're really strange. Huang Qian raised his head and saw that it was the mid-Qi condensation cultivator who was talking. His eyes flashed, and he was about to teach this brat a lesson. But then, the magic power in his hand stopped, and the expression on his face gradually became one of terror. The two young men in front of him, who were originally only at the middle Qi condensation stage, suddenly had their auras skyrocketed to the early Foundation establishment stage. Even though he was so close, he could still feel a baleful aura. It was as if the youths in front of him were far stronger than the early Foundation establishment stage. "You guys know, Senior." Huang Qian was extremely flustered and stammered. However, his reaction wasn't slow at all, and he immediately raised a magic barrier. Bang! A gigantic shield embedded with countless steel spikes appeared in front of him, directly smashing into his protective shield. Huang Qian immediately felt a terrifying force pass through, and his protective shield, which was at the peak of the Qi refining stage, was shattered. Then his eyes rolled back and he fainted. "Not bad, little Yin. Your control of strength is very precise." At that moment, several cultivators suddenly appeared beside Huang Xiaoyan's group. They were none other than Zhao Qingtian and the others who had hidden themselves earlier. Zhao Qingtian slapped his storage bag, and a light purple spirit boat appeared in front of them. He praised Pan Yin and quickly said, "Xiao Yun, I'll let you interrogate this guy." Everyone get on Master's Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. Everyone nodded and jumped up. Huang Xiaoyan carried the unconscious Huang Qian and jumped up. Then, Xiao Jin took out the wishful meteoric iron staff from his back and activated the power of the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. He controlled the flying boat and chased after the goo poison sect disciples. With his demon monkey with spirit ears leading the way, Zhao Qingtian and the others were very relieved. They quietly sat on the flying boat. At this time, Huang Xiaoyan had already woken up the unconscious Zhao Qingtian. Zhao Qingtian casually released an intermediate vine technique to bind Huang Qian. With Huang Qian's qi refinement great perfection level, there was no way he could break free from this intermediate spell. Next, Huang Xiaoyan laughed and took out a copper bowl that was emitting black qi and placed it in front of him. It was obviously an evil cultivator's item. When Huang Qian woke up, he found several Foundation establishment cultivators around him. He was so scared that his face was pale. Now that he saw the Yin Qi magic tool, he broke out in cold sweat. He immediately shouted, "Seniors, let's talk nicely. I don't want the spirit stones from before. I'll return them to you." Huang Xiaoyan coldly snorted, "Do you think we care about those spirit stones? If you know what's good for you, you'll answer whatever I ask." "Yes, yes, yes. I will tell you everything I know." Huang Xiaoyan asked, "What mission did those goo poison sect disciples go to perform?" When Huang Qian heard this, he hesitated for a moment, but then he saw the cultivators on the spirit shuttle looking at him coldly. He immediately said, "Their mission is confidential to the outside world, but don't worry, seniors. I was the one who purchased the items to assist in their mission. I can guess what mission they're going to do." "What mission?" Huang Qian gritted his teeth and said, "I can tell you, seniors, but you have to swear a spiritual sense oath to spare my life. Otherwise, I won't tell you even if I die." When Huang Xiaoyan heard this, he was a little hesitant. He turned to look at Zhao Qingtian and saw this second senior brother nod directly and say, "Okay, we promise you." When the others saw that Zhao Qingtian had spoken, they also swore an oath. Huang Qian's heart relaxed. He said, "The order from the sect is to buy some 100-year-old withered bone vines." Huang Xiaoyan said softly, "You mean the withered bone vines that are harmless when they grow, but wither when they are picked and become extremely poisonous?" Huang Qian nodded and said, "You are right, senior. It is the withered bone vines. The withered bone vines are a spiritual herb unique to our southern marsh state. The older it is, the more poisonous it is after it withers. Of course, this herb can at most be refined into some poison in other places, but in the hands of our goo poison sect, it is the most attractive thing to poisonous insects. Uncle Masters asked me to collect more than 10 withered bone vines. Someone in the sect must have found traces of some kind of poisonous insect, so senior brothers came out together to capture it." When they heard Huang Qian's words, they suddenly felt a little excited. Before they came to the goo poison sect, they had done some research on this sect and found that this sect's unique secret techniques were all kinds of goo insects. These goo insects were refined from some spiritual insects in the cultivation world. In the hands of the goo poison sect's disciples, they were casting tools that were not inferior to high-grade magic artifacts. With high-grade goo insects, they could release all kinds of unique secret techniques that were impossible to guard against. When Huang Xiaoyan heard about poisonous insects, he suppressed the excitement in his heart and continued to ask, "Then there is another question. Have you heard of the silver silkworm goo poison in the sect?" When Huang Qian heard this, he immediately said, "Of course. This silver silkworm goo poison is one of the most powerful poison techniques in our sect. It is said that it can quickly corrode the body of a cultivator. As long as it passes through the cultivator's magic power shield, ordinary Foundation establishment cultivators will be almost unable to resist if this poison is injected into them. Even core formation cultivators would have to immediately use their powerful magic power to force the goo poison out. Then this silver silkworm goo poison was refined by you guys?" Huang Qian sighed and said, This is the venom of the silver silkworm goo that only core foundation establishment disciples can cultivate. There are very few disciples in the sect who can refine this silver silkworm goo. I only know of Uncle Master Tong. Because in addition to profound magic power catalysis, you also need to catch the 10,000 poison silkworm. The 10,000 poison silkworm is too rare. As if thinking of something, Huang Qian suddenly said, "Right, it seems that the 10,000 poison silkworm likes to devour withered bone vines the most." Chapter 475. On the other side, the man surnamed Lu, who was flying through the air on his magic tool, smirked. He looked at the incomparably blue sky and was in a very good mood. He realized that everything had been going very smoothly recently. 2 years ago, his cousin had returned from training outside and seemed to have had a fortuitous encounter. After a year of seclusion, his cultivation had greatly improved. He estimated that he would enter the great circle of foundation establishment in a few more years. His cousin, who was in a very good mood, told him the location of the 10,000 poison silkworm. This made the man surnamed Lu overjoyed. He immediately spent more than a year thoroughly researching the sect's secret technique for refining the silver silkworm goo. Then he spent a large amount of spirit stones, made many preparations, and asked several junior brothers in the sect to help him. He had just found Huang Qian to take away the withered bone vines that he had collected for him. He didn't expect to obtain a level 2 immortal treasure. In order to gather enough withered bone vines and pay his junior brothers, he had already pawned off his own spiritual immortal treasure. A spiritual immortal treasure delivered to my door, and it's even better than the one I had before. This means that the heavens are looking after me. This way, the capture of the 10,000 poison silkworm will be very smooth. I can quickly refine the silver silkworm goo. The more the man surnamed Lu thought about it, the more excited he became. After refining the silver silkworm goo, my strength will definitely not be inferior to a late-stage cultivator in the sect. In the future, if I successfully refine the golden silkworm goo that no disciple has refined for many years, even a core formation cultivator might not be able to expel the poison. Senior brother Lu, we've arrived at our destination. Just as the man surnamed Lu was fantasizing, an early-stage foundation establishment disciple beside him spoke up. This peak mid-stage foundation establishment cultivator carefully looked forward. He saw a crack in a mountain wall that was densely covered in shrubs. The crack was about 4 zhong wide and 10 zhong deep. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary mountain crack. This location was at the border of the southern marsh region. Even if ordinary cultivators passed by, they wouldn't pay much attention to this place. In a moment, I'll have to trouble you to set up the 7 stars formation in 7 directions. I'll place the withered bone vines in the center and use a secret technique to release its aura. If the 10,000 poison silkworm comes in, you can immediately use the 7 stars formation to trap me and the 10,000 poison silkworm inside. This way, I can easily subdue this poisonous insect. The early-stage foundation establishment cultivator who spoke before couldn't help but ask, "But Senior Marshal Brother Lu, this myriad poison silkworm is quite poisonous. If..." The man surnamed Lu waved his hand and said, "It's fine. I specially bought a bottle of mine, cleansing pills for my sex, Marshal Uncle. As long as I don't get bitten, there won't be any problems. However, this myriad poison silkworm must be refined and subdued as soon as possible. Otherwise, as time passes, it will realize that it can't escape and might even die." The man with the surname Lu muttered a few words. Seeing that the others had no objections, he arranged for them to distribute the 7 stars formation that he had spent a large sum of money to buy from the Star Moon Pavilion. The man surnamed Lu wasn't worried at all that his fellow disciples would compete with him for this 10,000 poison silkworm, because the refining method of this silver silkworm goo could only be used by cultivators above the middle stage of foundation establishment. Even if the surrounding disciples were greedy, they didn't use it. If they had sold it to others, the myriad poison silkworm would have died long ago. According to my cousin, he had seen 2 myriad poisons silkworms in the past. One of them was refined by him by chance, while the other should have been hibernating underground for a long time. Soon after, The man surnamed Lu took the lead and descended. After sensing for a moment, he clenched his teeth and took out 8 withered bone vines. He placed them in a place with the most abundant spiritual chi. The other 7 early-stage Foundation Establishment disciples used him as the center to lay down the 7 Stars Formation, which was extremely famous among Foundation Establishment cultivators. As long as the myriad poison silkworm entered the formation, even if it had powerful penetrative abilities, it wouldn't be able to break through the formation that could withstand a strike from a core formation cultivator. Once everything was set up, the man surnamed Lu sat cross-legged next to the 8 withered bone vines. He muttered an incantation and formed a complicated hand seal, sending several streaks of spiritual light into the withered bone vines. Then, he immediately swallowed a white pill and used a mid-grade high-grade concealment talisman on himself, disappearing without a trace. At the same time, the 7 early-stage Foundation Establishment cultivators also used high-grade concealment talismans on him. As a result, apart from the 8 withered bone vines that were emitting faint black smoke, everything else was the same as before. Although the 8 withered bone vines weren't as poisonous as the myriad poison silkworm, the difference wasn't too great. In addition to holding his breath, the man surnamed Lu also used a clear heart pill to prevent himself from being corroded by the poison. As for the cultivators further away, they only needed to hold their breaths. In this way, after about 2 hours, the black smoke emitted by the withered bone vines gradually disappeared. The withered bone vines that had lost all of their value had turned into a pile of powder. The invisible man, surnamed Lu, was inwardly anxious. In the past 2 hours, he had already burned 3 withered bone vines, all of which were spirit stones. However, he noticed that the ashes of the withered bone vines were gradually sinking into the earth below. He planned to continue waiting. If worst came to worst, he still had half of the withered bone vines he could use. Time slowly passed. When there was only 1 withered bone vine left and the man surnamed Lu was about to give up, a dark yellow, chubby silkworm cautiously poked out half of its body from the ashes of the withered bone vine. Its large eyes that occupied half of its head vigilantly surveyed its surroundings. After discovering that there was no danger, it turned into a yellow streak and rushed towards the remaining withered bone vines. This was the rarely seen myriad poison silkworm in the cultivation world. In the instant the yellow streak flew out, the man surnamed Lu suddenly threw out a talisman. At the same time, he loudly shouted, "Now!" The talisman? It turned into a thin vine and chased after the yellow streak. At the same time, 7 flashes of light appeared around the man surnamed Lu, enveloping him in a white barrier. When a myriad poison silkworm discovered the changes in its surroundings, it let out a cry of alarm and emitted a yellow mist from its body. However, it was still trapped by the thin vine. However, the myriad poison silkworm suddenly shrank and turned into an earthworm. It drilled into the ground like a sharp needle. With a clang, the myriad poison silkworm immediately returned to its original size and landed on the pale white ground. It was a little shaky, as if it had been knocked unconscious by the impact. The man surnamed Lu took advantage of this opportunity to throw out 2 more talismans. He threw them out and turned them into thin vines that directly trapped the myriad poison silkworm. Next, he summoned a jade bottle and formed an incantation gesture to store the myriad poison silkworm inside. He loudly said, "Just in case, I'll have to trouble Junior Marshall Brothers to maintain the 7 Stars Formation for half a day. I'll use a secret technique to refine the silkworm into a goo." Chapter 476. While the man surnamed Lu was refining the myriad poison silkworm, the 7 goo poison sect disciples around him were all observing with rapt attention apart from maintaining the formation. Although they couldn't use this silkworm refining technique, they could still learn some experience from this senior brother's casting process. They came to help the man surnamed Lu complete the mission because they wanted to witness the entire process of capturing and refining the myriad poison silkworm and learn from it. This way, if they found the location of the myriad poison silkworm in the future, they could use the same method to capture it. No goo poison sect disciple would be unwilling to obtain such a powerful goo worm. Moreover, with the experience of capturing the myriad poison silkworm, it would be even easier to capture other weaker poisonous worms. These disciples were focused on observing the man, surnamed Lu, in the middle. They didn't notice that the shrubs in the mountain crevice had some abnormal undulations and the flow of air had changed slightly. After about half a day, a dazzling silver light bloomed from the man, surnamed Lu's hand. The jade bottle had already cracked, and the myriad poisoned silkworm inside had turned into a silver-white fat silkworm. Its large head and eyes were extremely dull, and its body emitted a strange fluctuation. Seeing this, the man surnamed Lu laughed and said, "I didn't expect to refine this myriad poisoned silkworm so smoothly this time. Sure enough, the heavens have been looking after me recently. With this silver silkworm goo, my strength will definitely increase greatly." Just as the man surnamed Lu was extremely excited and the surrounding early-stage Foundation establishment disciples were attracted by the newly refined silver silkworm goo, a figure appeared behind the 5 goo poison sect disciples. Who is it? Not good. After all, they were all disciples of the 10 great sects. At such a close distance, they immediately sensed something and reacted quickly. It was as if the 7 cultivators outside had activated a magic power shield at the same time and immediately followed up. Unfortunately, they encountered a body cultivator that they had never seen before. Boom! These figures that suddenly appeared erupted with 5 terrifying auras. These auras were comparable to that of a class 3 demon beasts, causing the goo poison sect disciples to be extremely frightened. The man surnamed Lu inside the formation was even more flustered. Because he had refined the silver silkworm goo, he had consumed a lot of his magic power. He gritted his teeth, and before the 7 stars formation disappeared, he immediately took a healing pill, took out a spirit talisman, and sealed the silver silkworm goo that he had just refined and put it into a spirit beast pouch. Only after he had completely refined it would he be able to absorb it into his body. However, in just a short while, more than half of the venomous poison sect disciples outside had died. The 2 goo poison sect disciples who had counterattacked were facing Zhao Qingtian and Sher Chao. This pair of siblings could be said to be the 2 strongest people at present. One of them had tempered her body with offensive talismans for 5 years. One of them used the dense spirit energy on Demon Spirit Island to temper his body. Under the influence of the ice element treasure, his water element magic power became even purer. His body refinement was only a bit weaker than Zhao Qingtian's. Relying on their powerful bodies, the wood spirit shield, and the water barrier, the Zhao siblings were able to resist the enemy's mid-level offensive spells. Wielding a pair of rods and a pair of swords, he used the power of a mid-foundation establishment cultivator to shatter his opponent's magical energy shield. As for the other 3 people who were attacked, 2 of them immediately summoned their defensive artifacts, and one of them used a high-grade defensive talisman. Only then was he able to withstand the first wave of attacks from Yuxian and the others. Unfortunately, it was only the first wave. If these people were in the air and attacking Zhao Qingtian and the others from a distance, these first-generation body cultivators would have a headache. However, at this moment, not only were they on the ground, but the body cultivators had also closed in on them. Under the attack of 20,000 kilograms of force and the power of their artifacts, even a level 2 demon beast would be in danger, let alone ordinary cultivators with weak bodies. Yuxian waved her fiery red sledgehammer. Huang Shaoyan held the golden flywheel with both hands, and Panyan held the huge black gold shield with both hands. They continuously attacked their opponents. With 2 weapons in hand, their attack speed was more than twice as fast as the magic artifacts of cultivators of the same level. In just 2 breaths, the attacks, which were equivalent to several rounds of attacks from mid-foundation establishment cultivators, broke through the defenses of the 3 goo poison sect disciples and directly killed them. The remaining 2 disciples were horrified. They were lucky that they weren't attacked, but they saw the process of their fellow disciples being killed. The 2 of them tried to use their magic artifacts to rescue the nearest fellow disciple, but the burly young man with the huge shield only waved his hand, and the heavy shield knocked away their magic artifacts, making them feel the terrifying power of a demon beast. Before they could react, the 5 fellow disciples were all dead and the 7 stars formation was broken. When they took out their flying magic tools and were ready to escape, they saw that these cultivators with strange fighting methods were divided into two groups. The man with the fiery red sledgehammer flashed under his feet and appeared in front of them. Then, the burly young man closest to them flashed with yellow light and appeared behind them using the earth escape technique. This made the two of them full of despair. The man surnamed Lou in the middle was dripping with cold sweat. At this moment, he was only holding a trembling magic power barrier. The flying dagger magic artifact that he had just obtained was floating in front of him, and around him, two men and a woman appeared, surrounding him in a triangle. Fellow Taoists, I am a disciple of the Goo Poison sect. The sect has a divine soul command plate. If you kill me, you will have to face the pursuit of my sect's core formation elders. The man surnamed Lou said with a stern expression. His mind reacted quickly. These cultivators with overwhelming strength had waited until now to attack. It was very likely that they were here for the silver silkworm goo in his hands. His words were only to make them somewhat afraid. His true intention was to take out the silver silkworm goo to threaten them. But before the man surnamed Lou could take out the silver silkworm goo, an extremely dazzling golden light shot toward him. Then, he seemed to see the ground spinning and he lost all feeling. Xiao Yun, the attack power of your metal attribute magic artifact is indeed strong. In terms of attack power, only Yu Xian can match you. Sher Chao put away the traces of ice on her two swords and praised. Huang Xiaoyun faintly smiled and said, "It was the great design of the golden flywheel by the senior brother of the weapon refining peak. Apart from coordinating with magic power and physical strength, the outer ring of sharp gears also increased the cutting power by quite a bit." Zhao Qingtian interrupted. "We'll talk later. You guys clean up the battlefield. I'll search for the silver silkworm goo." "All right, senior brother. You can come pick us up now." After speaking, Zhao Qingtian began to inspect the man surnamed Lu's things. The others also went about their duties. Huang Xiaoyan collected all the formation discs on the ground. Yu Xian and Pan Yin also killed the last of the Goo Poison sect disciples. They turned all the corpses into ashes. Soon, Xiao Jin also arrived with the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. After finding the Silver Silkworm Goo, Zhao Qingtian and the other body cultivator first-generation disciples hastily jumped onto the flying boat and shot towards a direction. Chapter 477. Therefore, the good news was that Sher Mu could write for 8 days during the National Day holiday, and no one would disturb him. The bad news was that there would be no new chapters for today and tomorrow. Sher Mu was a newcomer, and the statistics for this book were very bleak. However, there were still many readers who supported him silently. Based on this alone, Sher Mu would continue to write. Chapter 478. High up in the sky, Zhao Qingtian and the others were standing on the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. They were all surrounding a sleeping middle-aged man, deep in thought. Taking a closer look, other than the sleeping man, Pan Yin, the tall and sturdy youth, was also lying on the ground, as if he had fallen asleep. Huang Xiaoyun asked anxiously, "Second senior brother, what do we do with this person? Are we really going to let him go according to our divine sense oath?" Zhao Qingtian sneered. "I didn't plan on letting him go from the beginning. He knows that we ambushed the Goo Poison sect disciples. When we made the divine sense oath, eldest senior brother didn't participate. It's fine as long as eldest senior brother acts." Then he turned to little monkey who was controlling the shuttle and said, "I'll have to trouble eldest senior brother. It's best if you hurry up. Otherwise, little Pan Yin will wake up. If he consciously defends, Xiao Yun and I won't be able to knock him out so easily." Little monkey glanced at the unconscious Pan Yin and quickly nodded, as if he was afraid that Pan Yin would wake up. Little monkey flashed and punched the unconscious Pan Yin's head with his fist wrapped in yellow light. With Xiao Jin's powerful strength, his head was instantly smashed. Then a yellow demon fire came out and burned his head clean. Then Xiao Jin turned around and continued to control the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. None of them noticed that there was a tiny trace of blood that wasn't burned to ashes by Xiao Jin's demon fire. Instead, it quickly entered his body. Little Monkey and the others didn't notice this. Zhao Qingtian looked at the man who disappeared without a trace and finally let out a sigh of relief. Luckily, Little Yun and I recently discovered that his devilish gold mana and my primordial wood body refining mantra can be combined with our respective body refining mantras to unleash an even more powerful paralysis ability. Otherwise, only eldest senior brother would be able to knock him unconscious. Huang Xiaoyan laughed. Haha, if big senior brother knocked little Yin unconscious, I'm afraid little Yin would be on the verge of death by now. Although Xiao Yin is more flexible than before, we still can't let him know about what we just did. Otherwise, this kid will definitely think that we are treacherous. Little Yin's defense is really strong. He woke up so quickly. Pan Yin touched his stiff neck and looked strangely at Zhao Qingtian and Huang Xiaoyan. Senior brothers, why did you hit me? I didn't do anything wrong. I just killed a few goo-poisoned sect disciples. Huang Xiaoyan chuckled awkwardly. That little Yin, me and second senior brother just happened to discover a joint attack technique a while back. It's capable of unleashing a powerful paralyzing force, and it seems to be no weaker than the lightning attribute. Well, your defense is the strongest, so I decided to test it out on you. Pan Yin looked at Zhao Qingtian, who was also laughing dryly, and asked doubtfully, really? Ahem, Little Yin may have lied to you, but when has your second senior brother ever lied to you? Seems like it, but Zhao Qingtian's face suddenly became serious. Okay, now we need to replenish our mana. We are still in the southern marsh region. If the elders of the Goo Poison sect are nearby, we will be in trouble. With our strength, if we meet a core formation stage cultivator, we will basically be wiped out. We will only be safe when we return to the Abyss City. In the depths of the southern marsh region, there was a swamp that was full of corrosive aura, but full of spiritual energy. In a cultivator's cave that was transformed from a giant tree, an old man with a withered face and skin was meditating. Suddenly, a blood-red light flashed through his body. The old man immediately opened his eyes with a shocked expression. He opened his hands, and a dark red worm the size of an egg gradually appeared. If one looked closely, one would realize that this worm was missing a leg. He muttered, "Impossible. The blood goo poison clone I left on Qianbrat was directly activated. Could it be that he was killed by someone? There is actually someone in the southern marsh region who dares to attack a disciple of the goo poison sect." After speaking, the old man didn't seem to believe in heresy. The vigorous Fa Li in his body was activated. He formed a unique hand seal and cast a spell on the dark red goo worm in his palm. Not long after, the goo worm let out an ear-piercing cry, causing the skinny old man's expression to become increasingly unsightly. His eyes gradually flashed with a trace of killing intent as he said, "He was actually killed. Other than me, he's the only disciple in the Huang clan who has a spiritual root. Qianbrat's cultivation is at the great circle of qi refinement. He must have met a foundation establishment stage cultivator." The old man stood up. Although Huang Qian's talent is extremely poor, his methods are extraordinary. If he entered the foundation establishment stage with his own efforts, I think the other senior brothers won't say anything if I let him be the deacon of the sect. In the future, Qianbrat might have a descendant with good talent. I didn't think that all of this would be cut off by an unfamiliar cultivator. The skinny old man became angrier the more he thought about it. He took out the dark red worm and at the same time opened his mouth and forced out a drop of his essence blood. He poured it into the worm and muttered something. Soon, this seemingly sluggish voodoo worm hovered in place for a while. Then it blasted toward a direction and hit the enchantment in the cave house. Seeing this, the old man revealed a relaxed expression. With this blood goo tracking technique, I can definitely find this person. After speaking, he opened the cave's restriction and flew towards a direction in the southern marsh region under the guidance of the worm in his hand. The speed of a core formation stage cultivator was incomparably fast. Moreover, this old man had already cultivated in the core formation stage for more than 200 years. His mana had already reached the peak of the early stage of the core formation stage, and his speed was extremely fast. After about a day, the skinny old man arrived at the border of the southern marsh state. His goo worm was hovering in his hand. Seeing this, he pondered for a while, then used the powerful divine sense of the core formation stage to explore his surroundings. The skinny old man seemed to have discovered something. In a flash, he appeared in a crack in a mountain. There are the auras of my goo-poisoned sex disciples here. There are also many traces of battle. It seems that there was a battle here. Although the traces here had been cleaned up, for an experienced core formation stage cultivator like the old man, he could tell that there was a battle here with a single glance. Suddenly, the worm in the skinny old man's hand made a hissing sound. There are the auras of death of several cultivators here. Could it be that Kid Chien and these inner sect disciples were killed together? From the few traces of battle, it seems that they completely crushed my sect's disciples. However, they shouldn't be core formation stage cultivators. It's very likely that they were cultivators above the late stage of the foundation establishment stage. After speaking, the old man threw the worm in his hand forward. This worm turned into a red light and darted into the nearby soil, as if it was searching for something. It quickly returned to the old man's hand. The old man closed his eyes and sensed for a while. He raised his head and looked in a direction. He coldly said, "In the same direction." It seems that the people who killed Kid Chien and my sex disciples are the same group. Chapter 479. The skinny old man was very depressed. At this time, he was already in the Shi Yuan state. It was the 5th day of his pursuit, but he still hadn't found any cultivators. With the speed of a core formation cultivator, although he was late by a day, it was impossible that he couldn't catch up with the opponent. Could it be that the opponent is really a core formation cultivator? Such a situation made the skinny old man have such a thought. However, his desire for revenge prevailed. He gritted his teeth and mustered all his strength to chase forward. Even if it's a core formation cultivator, I have to know who attacked my goo poison sect. I'm not afraid of an early core formation cultivator. If it's a middle core formation cultivator or above, I'll have to fight with him and then go back to report to the Grandmaster. The skinny old man chased for 8 days. On the 8th day, his blood goo tracking technique gradually found that the enemy was not far away. He arrived outside the Abyss Island. The skinny old man looked at the huge island in front of him that was covered by a powerful restriction and muttered, "Abyss Island?" Then, the old man turned into a ray of light and entered the island. As a core formation cultivator of the goo poison sect, one of the top 10 sects, the skinny old man naturally had the right to live on this island. After entering the island, the old man was alerted by the goo poison insect in his body and immediately locked onto a group of cultivators who were talking and laughing not far away. He restrained his dermic powers as he slowly followed behind. He secretly used his venomous witchcraft to sense the situation. However, he was puzzled. Strange, these people have the aura of the blood-venomous witchcraft avatar, but they are not the ones who killed Chien. Judging from the aura in that mountain crack, this should be the group who kill my goo poison sect disciples. After using his powerful divine sense to sense their magic power, the skinny old man was surprised and doubtful. The strongest of these brats is only at the early stage of the foundation establishment stage, and the weakest is only at the middle stage of the chi refining stage. Earlier, I sensed that 8 foundation establishment stage cultivators from my sect had died. How could these people kill my disciples with such strength? But the man with the sword-like eyebrows at the front and back has the strongest aura of the blood goo, but the blood goo is not in his body. It's really strange. With this thought in mind, the skinny old man unknowingly followed this group of people to a shop called Treasure Pavilion. Inside, a rather fat, middle-aged man with a smile walked out. The skinny old man looked at him, and his expression became serious. This fat man was also a core formation cultivator, but his magic power was much weaker than the skinny old man. It was obvious that he had just entered the core formation. This guy has the chi of treasures, of the skinny old. A young man who just entered the completion level is nothing to me. My treasures have been refined for 200 years, and my goo worms have been with me for 300 years. Even a normal completion level cultivator of the intermediate stage is no match for me. At this moment, Another expressionless middle-aged man with a square face appeared in the treasure pavilion. The skinny old man's spiritual sense subconsciously probed this man. The square-faced man immediately found something and glanced in the direction of the skinny old man. Before the old man could detect anything, he felt a spiritual sense at the peak of the middle core formation stage fiercely attack his spiritual sense. The old man from the goo poison sect let out a muffled groan. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. Without hesitation, he quickly retreated and disappeared around the corner. The square-faced man frowned slightly, but didn't care. Under the fat man's invitation, he also entered the treasure pavilion. The old man from the goo poison sect appeared from the corner of a shop. His face was slightly pale and his heart was filled with shock. Early core formation stage. Not only does he have the spiritual sense of the peak of the middle core formation stage, but his magic power is also extremely pure. The magic treasure in his body exudes a frightening aura. This guy is definitely a core formation stage cultivator who cultivates the top cultivation method. Just now, I was careless and suffered a small loss. With this guy here, I am a little restrained. But among these people, the man with the dashing eyebrows must be related to Chien Boy's death. As for the others, although I don't know how they did it, they're all murderers of my goo poison sect's disciples. Do I have to go back to the sect and ask a few senior brothers for help? Just as the skinny old man was thinking about this, a few more cultivators walked out of the treasure pavilion. They were led by a middle-stage foundation establishment stage man and an ordinary-looking late-stage foundation establishment stage man. Behind them followed the dashing eyebrows that the old man suspected, as well as a good-looking young man and an angular and somewhat handsome young man. These people seemed to have something urgent and went to the exit of the Abyss Island in a group. This made the skinny old man from the goo poison sect a little stunned. Then, he carefully checked the area and found that the core formation stage man he was afraid of did not come out. He thought for a moment and walked out of the Abyss Island. However, in order to not be discovered by those people, he deliberately slowed down his pace. After a while, the skinny old man arrived outside the restriction of the Abyss Island and looked into the distance with a stunned expression. How is this possible? What kind of flying magic tool are they using? They are so fast. The power of his divine sense had a wide range and clearly found that the speed of the flying magic tool was continuously increasing. At present, it was close to the speed of an early-stage core formation stage cultivator. But he clearly saw that the highest cultivation of the group of cultivators just now was only at the late-stage foundation establishment stage. No wonder I couldn't catch up with him before. Fortunately, the effect of the blood goo poison tracking technique is still there. It is not difficult to catch up with them if I fly at full speed. After that, the old man anxiously stimulated the magic power in his body and soared into the sky under the astonished gazes of the surrounding cultivators who had just entered the island. What a powerful magic power fluctuation. It is a core formation stage senior. I am so envious that he can fly. We came to the Abyss Island to replenish our supplies and immediately go to the outer sea. Hopefully, we can reach the core formation stage one day. At this time, 3 ordinary-looking cultivators were sitting in a simple flying boat and slowly landed on the dock of the Abyss Island. They were also looking at the core formation stage cultivator who flew out. One of the short men wearing a red robe said softly, "This guy seems to be from the goo poison sect. He is flying in such a hurry. Could it be that he found some kind of spiritual insect in the outer sea?" Next to the man was a tall and beautiful woman. She said indifferently, "Fellow Taoist O Yang, the goo poison sect is completely suppressed by your scorching sun sect in terms of cultivation methods. Why do you care? The most important thing now is to come to the Abyss Island to find out more about them." The last cultivator's face was covered by a spell, but it could be seen that he was an old man. He also said, "Goddess and I is right. Fellow Taoist O Yang, let us enter the Abyss Island first." Chapter 480. Not long after the skinny old man left the Abyss City, another yellow streak shot out from the Abyss Island. If the core formation elder of the venomous sect saw it, he probably wouldn't care. This yellow streak was the one he saw before. the fat new core formation stage cultivator. However, this yellow streak was flying in a different direction from the venomous sect elder. As the skinny old man chased after him, he became more and more depressed. The purple spirit shuttle the skinny old man was riding was flying at the same speed as his core formation stage cultivator. In fact, it was even slightly faster than his. The skinny old man racked his brains, but was only able to keep a distance of about 5 kilometers. If it weren't for the venomous tracking technique, he would have lost them long ago. There were 2 core formation stage cultivators before, and now there's this mystical flying treasure. No matter how I look at it, this group of people seems to be from a secret sect. With a distance of 5 kilometers, they definitely won't be able to find me with their spiritual sense. From the situation of the treasure pavilion, this sect is most likely proficient in refining magic tools. However, I don't think I've heard of any sect that's proficient in the art of refining magic tools in the state of Chu. Based on the skinny old man's previous observations on the Abyss Island, he determined that these people were from the same sect. I'd better be careful. Let's find out where their sect is first. With this thought, the skinny old man continued to follow. About 5 kilometers in front of the skinny old man, a group of people calmly sat on their spirit shuttles and meditated. Qin Yushu's expression was calm as he controlled the spirit shuttle beneath his feet. At this moment, Zhao Qingtian, who was meditating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes and said, "Martial Uncle Qin, we're out of the range of that old man's spiritual sense. My body can't feel the fluctuations of that core formation stage spiritual sense." Because the body refining pavilion was addressed as the first and second generation disciples, Qin Yushu and Lu Kuan were the first generation. They were the founders of the treasure pavilion, so the first generation disciples had to address them as martial uncle. Their generation of body cultivators had all cultivated the soul sensing art. Coupled with their own body refining techniques, their physical bodies had extremely strong senses and were extremely sensitive to powerful divine senses. Qin Yushu nodded and exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi. Fortunately, my refining technique has improved in recent years. I've refined the Silver Dragon Meteoric Iron and the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle, so it can replace Lu Shidi and Xiao Jin's pseudo-magic tools. Otherwise, it would have been a bit troublesome to keep this old man in the Spirit Shuttle. Huang Xiaoyun, who was also sitting on the Spirit Shuttle, rejoiced. Moreover, if it wasn't for Senior Xiao, who discovered the core formation cultivator with ill intentions and detected the abnormality in Senior Marshall Brothers' body and knew that we were under the goo poison sex tracking technique, I'm afraid our island would have been discovered by others. Zhao Qingtian glanced at the spirit beast pouch on his waist and sighed. What a coincidence. The cultivator who was killed by eldest Marshall brother had a secret technique cast on him by a core formation cultivator. But the goo poison sex secret technique is really powerful. Eldest senior brother is in the spirit beast pouch, but he can still sense our approximate location. When Qin Yushu heard what the disciples said, his eyes flashed with a cold light. That's why we hurriedly came up with this plan to kill this old man. In a while, we will first fly to the Shiyuan state near the border between the northern Barren state and the kingdom of Qi. Then, we will detour to the Dead Sea and finally enter the chaotic ocean. The few of us can take turns to control the spirit shuttle now. After such a long delay, Senior Marshall Brother Zhu must have found Lu Shidi and made preparations to ambush him. That's right. Qingtian, you take over the control. I will recover my magic power. Also, let out Xiao Jin. After all, the other party has complete control of our whereabouts. Xiao Jin can also help us understand the movements around us. Zhao Qingtian nodded and patted the spirit beast pouch on his waist. After letting Xiao Jin out, he took over Qin Yushu's position and controlled the flying boat to fly in the direction that Qin Yushu said. When Zhao Qingtian and the others returned to the Abyss City, they didn't expect to be followed by a core formation cultivator. Xiao Jin only sensed the presence of a core formation cultivator when they were near the Abyss Island. However, in this area, it was very normal for a core formation cultivator to appear, so Xiao Jin didn't take it to heart. Besides, during this journey, although Zhao Qingtian and the others took turns, Xiao Jin still consumed a lot of demonic spiritual power and didn't fully activate his spirit ears. If it weren't for Xiao Hongfei's reminder after entering the treasure pavilion, they wouldn't even know that a core formation cultivator had used a secret tracking technique on them, and they were tracked all the way to the entrance of the treasure pavilion. In the end, after some discussion, they decided to let Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Kuan, who had just advanced to the core formation stage, work together to set up an ambush and kill this core formation cultivator of the poison venom sect. They didn't let Xiao Hongfei do it. After all, this powerful cultivator had already alerted the enemy. Moreover, they had to quickly deal with this enemy. Otherwise, he would report what he saw to the poison venom sect, and the treasure pavilion would be in trouble. As time passed, this group of people intentionally or unintentionally bypassed the chaotic ocean and entered the Dead Sea area. The poison venom sect elder who followed behind only hesitated for a moment before also entering. For him, as long as it wasn't a few months of flying, the Dead Sea's spiritual power was not worth being afraid of for the spirit stones on his waist. At the same time, on the surface of the chaotic ocean and the Dead Sea, two similar-looking old men appeared out of thin air. They were the famously brothers of the Red Refining Sect. However, at this time, the aura of the two of them became somewhat unusual. Originally, although the red demonic technique they cultivated had the word demonic, the spiritual power they cultivated didn't have much demonic chi. Cultivators of the same level wouldn't think that they were demonic cultivators. However, now, the two of them were emitting a turbulent demonic chi. However, the strange thing was that the two of them were originally in the middle core formation stage, but now they were only in the early core formation stage. The second brother of the Li family looked at the cracked magic tool in his hand and asked, "Big brother, we just changed our cultivation technique to the red refining demonic technique. According to senior marshal brother Tian, we must immediately find a core formation stage cultivator and use his blood essence to help us stabilize our cultivation. Do you think we should go to the nearby state of Qi or spend an extra day to go to the outer seas?" Li Jiejia pondered and said, "If we go to the state of Qi, of course we can quickly meet core formation stage cultivators. However, there are also demonic cultivators who are proficient in all kinds of demonic techniques. Their combat strength is not weak. It is still difficult to kill a core formation stage cultivator. As for the outer seas, the core formation stage cultivators, they're basically all from the state of Chu. Their combat strength is weaker, but the outer seas are vast. It will be difficult for us to find a core formation stage cultivator in a short time." If that's the case, Li Jiejia pondered for a moment. Just as he was about to say something, his expression suddenly changed and he said, "Second brother, restrain your aura." The two of them reacted extremely quickly. They quickly cast a magic technique and completely retracted the demonic chi on their bodies. Then, they disappeared as if they were on the surface of the sea. Not long after, an extremely fast spirit shuttle flew over their heads. At the same time, the Li brothers felt a familiar early core formation stage divine sense sweep over the nearby sea. Chapter 481. Big brother, if I'm not wrong, this consciousness belongs to that old guy from the poison sect. The Li brothers secretly transmitted their voices. That's right, it's that guy with the surname Huang. Back then, we were seriously injured by his blood parasite. Unfortunately, after we entered the middle stage of the core formation stage, that old guy stayed in his sect and didn't come out. He's still in the early stage of the core formation stage. No matter why he chased after those little guys, he's dead for sure this time. He chased them into the Dead Sea. His mana probably isn't at its peak either. He's just delivering himself to us. Second brother, use your strongest technique later. You must kill him. Yes, big brother. After secretly communicating for a while, the Li brothers started to use their newly converted red refining devil technique. Zhi. Qin Yushu's group, who were hurrying on their way, suddenly heard Xiao Jin's strange cries. Instantly, everyone looked at Zhao Qingtian. Zhao Qingtian didn't seem to understand what the little monkey meant. After a while, he said, Senior apprentice brother seems to have said that there was a battle behind us. That old guy didn't follow us. Seeing that the others couldn't understand, Xiao Jin increased his hand movements and gestured with all his might. This made Zhao Qingtian, who was most familiar with Xiao Jin, understand. He said, "Uncle Qin, that old guy seems to have been ambushed behind us." Senior apprentice brother said that the person fighting with him should also be a core formation stage cultivator. Qin Yushu frowned. There are actually immortal cultivators on the Dead Sea, and 2 of them are core formation stage cultivators. Then, he shook his head and said, "We have to take this opportunity to retreat. If those 2 core formation stage cultivators win and follow us out of curiosity, even if Senior Apprentice Brother Zhu and Lu Shidi are there to ambush us, it will be very dangerous." After speaking, Qin Yushu used all his mana and drove the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle into the Chaotic Sea. Xiao Jin activated his spiritual ear ability and continued to listen to the sounds of the battle behind them. After traveling for about 100 miles, Zhao Qingtian's group arrived at an empty sea. Creak, creak. The little monkey cried out happily, as if it had sensed something. After a while, a figure jumped up from the sea below and landed accurately on the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. This figure was tall and sturdy, with short hair and a square face and a calm expression. It was Lu Kuan, who had been in seclusion for a while. At this moment, Lu Kuan furrowed his brows and asked doubtfully, "Isn't that core formation cultivator chasing after us?" Qin Yushu nodded and said, "Junior brother, let's go in and talk." "All right, where's Senior Brother Zhu?" "I'm here. Let's enter the island first." A fat figure suddenly appeared outside the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. It was Zhu Xiaofeng, who had been lying in ambush with Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan turned around and asked Xiao Jin, "Are there any other cultivators within 10 to 20 kilometers?" Xiao Jin nodded repeatedly. "Okay, the Demon Devil Island is not far from here. Let's enter the island first." With that, Lu Kuan took control of the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle. The 4 to 5 kilometers passed in an instant, and the Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle arrived outside the invisible restriction. They were enveloped by the light of the Demon Devil token from Lu Kuan and the others and entered the Demon Devil Island. Under the curious gazes of Qin Yushu and the others, they landed on the Spirit Dissension platform of the Demon Devil Island. They felt the surging spirit force around them and were ecstatic, especially Lu Xiao, who liked to cultivate. They wanted to immediately go into seclusion here for 100 years. After Lu Kuan saw everyone enter, his hand flashed and activated the formation on the Spirit Dissension platform. He then asked, "What happened in the middle?" "I just heard from Xiao Jin that the core formation cultivator of the Goo Poison sect fought with someone on the Dead Sea." Qin Yushu wryly smiled. "Junior brother, it was going quite smoothly. We lured him into the Dead Sea, but who knew that 2 core formation cultivators would appear at the border of the Dead Sea and the Chaotic Sea? As for their battle with the Goo Poison sect cultivator, I learned about it from Xiao Jin." Hearing this, Lu Kuan looked at Xiao Jin. Xiao Jin began to explain, but the moment Xiao Jin spoke, Lu Kuan frowned. Lu Kuan was shocked. Others might not understand what Xiao Jin was saying, but he understood the meaning behind it. The Li Brothers of the Red Refining Sect. Lu Kuan's expression was serious as he said these words. "The Red Refining Sect?" Qin Yushu immediately asked in confusion. "Junior brother means that the 2 core formation cultivators just now are the Li Brothers of the Red Refining Sect?" Lu Kuan nodded solemnly and said, "When you were crossing the Dead Sea, Xiao Jin heard the Goo Poison sect's cultivator exclaim in surprise. He said that those 2 cultivators were the Li Brothers, and then he heard the sounds of both sides fighting." Lu Kuan looked at the invisible restriction outside and said, "Now, there is good news and bad news. The good news is that this Goo Poison sect cultivator will definitely be killed by the Li Brothers of the Red Refining Sect immediately. Then, no one will know about him tracking to the treasure pavilion. Later, I will think of a way to remove the Goo Poison in Xiao Jin's body. It will be foolproof." Qin Yushu looked at the solemn Lu Kuan and asked curiously, "Junior brother, how do you know that the Li Brothers will definitely be able to kill their opponents? What's the bad news?" Lu Kuan sighed and said, "When we were close to the Chaotic Sea, Xiao Jin said that he vaguely heard a conversation between two cultivators. The content was about the red refining demonic technique and blood essence. They also said that they were looking for a place to kill the core formation cultivators. However, time was tight at that time, and it heard very vaguely, so it didn't remind you. Now that I think about it, these two cultivators are the lead brothers of the red refining sect. Combined with the fact that these two people ambushed the goo poison sect's core formation cultivator, we know that they most likely cultivated the red refining demonic technique and needed the blood essence of the core formation cultivator. This core formation cultivator could be considered as the blood essence that was sent to them. Qin Yushu immediately understood and muttered. No wonder Junior Brother said that this person would definitely die. In such a deserted place like the Dead Sea, if he really cultivated the red refining demonic technique, this would be an excellent opportunity. Then the bad news that Junior Brother mentioned is the red refining demonic technique? Lu Kuan replied, "That's right. From the looks of it, this red refining demonic technique might have been deduced by someone. Otherwise, the two core formation cultivators wouldn't want to kill the core formation cultivators and obtain their blood essence. This bad news doesn't have much of an impact on us who are often in closed-door cultivation. Initially, I wanted to kill Tian Renjia because their sect wasn't far from the Abyss Island. At that time, our main range of activity was also on the Abyss Island. Sooner or later, the two sides would meet. Now that we have this demon island, we are quite a distance away from the red refining sect. Even if they have the red refining demonic technique, they won't come to the chaotic sea." Chapter 482. Qin Yushu was also very confused. Core formation stage cultivators appearing in the Dead Sea means that there are treasures here that attract them. Or maybe there's a cultivator's cave or secret realm. But the Dead Sea has existed for so many years, and I've never heard of such things. Otherwise, it would have already spread out of the cultivation world. They couldn't figure out why these two people appeared in the Dead Sea. Lu Kuan shook his head and put this doubt in his heart. "How about this? We'll all enter Demon Spirit Island from the chaotic ocean. Don't pass by the Dead Sea." Seeing that they agreed, Lu Kuan continued. "Since the goo poison sect person has been dealt with, I plan to continue my secluded cultivation. Senior Brother Qin, Senior Brother Lu, you guys should also find a cave in the middle." Zhu Xiaofeng said, "Then I'll go back to the Abyss City." "Senior Brother Zhu, don't worry. There are core formation stage cultivators fighting 100 miles away. Just in case, you can stay here for a few days." After Zhu Xiaofeng agreed, Lu Kuan turned around and looked at his three disciples with a straight face. He said, "Tell me, how did you offend the disciples of the goo poison sect?" Seeing that Lu Kuan was educating his disciples, Qin Yushu said, "Junior Brother, Senior Brother Zhu will take us to understand Demon Spirit Island. We'll go first." Under Zhu Xiaofeng's lead, the three of them took out their flying magical artifacts and flew to the other areas of Demon Spirit Island. Seeing this, Lu Kuan also activated his Silver Dragon Spirit Shuttle and flew to the middle area. Then, Huang Xiaoyan began to explain to Lu Kuan. "Master, it's like this." Huang Xiaoyan told him about how they were attacked by the Extreme Devil Palace and the goo poison sect disciples in the Northern Barren State. They were careless and got poisoned by the silver silkworm, goo poison, and the corrosive poison. He told Lu Kuan about how his physical strength had increased greatly after going into seclusion to resist the poison, and how he had searched for the goo poison sect's silver silkworm, goo poison. By the time Huang Xiaoyan finished his narration, they were already sitting in Lu Kuan's cave abode in the central area. At this moment, Lu Kuan was sitting on the seat of honor in the hall. He stroked his chin with one hand and said thoughtfully, "If that's the case, Xiao Yun, you found a way to quickly improve your physical body. This method is to use the poison refined by immortal cultivators to temper the body?" Huang Xiaoyan nodded, then took out a storage bag and said, "Master, these are all kinds of poisons that Xiao Yin and I collected in the Northern Barren State. They are all at the same level as the corrosive poison." At this time, Zhao Qing Tian also took out a spiritual beast bag and said, "Master, this is the silver silkworm goo that we captured together in the end." Then he took out a jade slip and said, This is the method of refining the silver silkworm goo from the storage bag of the cultivator who caught the 10,000 poisoned silkworm. I've read it and found that there are many secret methods unique to the goo poison sect that other cultivators can't cultivate. Master, take it for reference. Maybe it has something to do with the goo poison. Lu Kuan didn't take it. Instead, he pondered for a while and walked to Huang Xiaoyun and Pan Yan's side. His hands flashed with a faint electric light as he patted them on the shoulders. Then his eyes flashed with a golden light. After a while, Lu Kuan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise and said, "The improvement of your physical body is so obvious. It seems that this time you have profited from a disaster." Then he said to them with some praise, "Fortunately, you didn't act rashly. Even if you used the methods of body cultivators, you still wiped out the opponent. As for the old man from the goo poison sect, he probably has a blood relationship with the chi condensation cultivator, which is why he chased after us. Fortunately, he has been dealt with now." Only then did Lu Kuan receive the items handed over by the disciples, instructing, "You guys first find a cave and cultivate for a period of time. I will carefully study the poison here, as well as that silver silkworm goo. After testing the poison, I will inform you." Hearing their master's words, Zhao Qingtian, Huang Xiaoyun, and the rest happily walked out. They had been drooling over the demon spirit island for a long time. Such rich spiritual energy was something they had never experienced anywhere else. Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin continued to stay in the cave. "Xiao Jin, I just used my golden eyes to check your blood. There is a small, long worm swimming in your blood. It should be this thing that led the goo poison sect's core formation cultivator here." When the little monkey heard this, it subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. The yellow fur on its body stood up. The word worm that Lu Kuan said terrified it. Seeing the little monkey so flustered, Lu Kuan couldn't help but laugh. "Don't be so afraid. If a normal cultivator encountered such a thing, they would have a headache. But for us body cultivators, there is nothing to be afraid of. Normal goo worms are afraid of fire-type spells, not to mention lightning-type spells. I only need to use a few mid-level lightning-type spells to kill you." Just as he finished speaking, a purple ball of lightning that would frighten even Foundation establishment cultivators appeared in Lu Kuan's hand. Under his control, the ball of lightning quickly smashed into Xiao Jin, who was still in a daze. The lightning suddenly exploded and turned into bolts of lightning that flowed on Xiao Jin's body. "Gigi, Gigi." Lu Kuan didn't care about Xiao Jin's miserable cries. Instead, he used his golden eyes to observe the unusual blood-red light in Xiao Jin's body. When he saw that it had been turned into ashes by a bolt of lightning that had penetrated Xiao Jin's body, he revealed a satisfied smile. This method could only be used by body cultivators. If it was a normal cultivator, their unprotected body would have been destroyed by the spell before the little worm disappeared. After a while, the power of the lightning-type spell dissipated, revealing the charred little monkey. It bared its teeth at Lu Kuan in dissatisfaction. "Xiao Jin, if I didn't sneak attack you, your body wouldn't have been able to enter your body if your body instinctively defended. Gigi, okay, you have to be careful next time. Logically speaking, when your muscles tighten, you can still stop this foreign object from entering your body even if you don't have a defensive shield." "Gigi, that's right. You should hurry up and cultivate. You have to know that Little Gray has been cultivating in the demonic aura area all these years. It will soon reach the level of a third-level demonic beast. With this progress, it will catch up to you sooner or later. You're now in the blood condensation stage, which is the most time-consuming." Hearing this, Xiao Jin shook its tail and squeaked, scurrying out of Lu Kuan's cave abode. Looking at the anxious Xiao Jin cultivating, Lu Kuan smiled and shook his head. Then he looked at the storage bag and spirit beast bag in his hand and said with emotion, "I didn't expect these disciples to be able to find things that can assist in body refinement." He poured out everything in the storage bag, and a large pile of various bottles and jars appeared on the ground. There were labels on them that said corrosive poison, with spirit powder, heart-shattering pill, green corpse poison, and so on. Even if they were contained in bottles, there were still all kinds of nauseating smells coming out. If an ordinary mortal smelled it, they would probably die. It's fortunate that Xiao Yun and the others are so considerate to collect so many poisons from the cultivation world. However, I seem to have heard that in a distant place, there is a sect that specializes in cultivating poison techniques. Their techniques contain poisons that are impossible to guard against. Then, Lu Kuan looked at the spirit beast bag at the side. He had heard from Huang Xiaoyan that the silver silkworm goo that had not been completely refined should be inside. He directly opened the spirit beast bag, wanting to see what the goo that the disciples of the goo poison sect were scrambling for looked like. Chapter 483. The silver light seemed to be extremely nimble. After spitting out a mouthful of poison, it immediately drilled into the ground. Bang! Unfortunately, this was Lu Kuan's abode and was covered in restrictions. The silver light directly crashed into the restrictions. However, the silver light didn't seem to give up. It quickly turned into a silver needle. At the same time, the silver light on its body became even more dazzling. It continued to stab into the ground that was flashing with the light of the restrictions. Dang! An extremely crisp sound flashed. On the originally empty ground, a fist-sized purple-black ball of lightning suddenly appeared, blocking the silver needle. The silver light seemed to be stunned by the ball of lightning. At this time, another ball of lightning flew from behind. It formed a pincer attack with the previous ball of lightning, trying to trap it in the middle. The silver light panicked. It let out a panic cry and shot to the side. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, a tall and sturdy figure appeared in front of the silver light in a flash. A fist so large that the silver light looked up at it hid its small head. Strangely, this fist didn't contain much power. It only produced a pushing force that pushed it back. The two balls of lightning behind it had already become the size of watermelons. The sides of the two balls of lightning were aimed at the silver light. They combined in the middle and immediately trapped it inside. Strange. I heard that after the death of the Goo Master, their vitality will be greatly damaged and then they will fall into a deep slumber. But this little guy is not injured at all. It seems to be even more difficult to deal with than normal Goo Masters. Lu Kuan, whose face was slightly black, clicked his tongue in wonder. After I breathed in the poison just now, it went straight to my internal organs. If it weren't for the fact that my viscera forging stage has made great progress these past few years and my internal organs, FALE, is quite abundant, it really could have escaped. Hearing the sound of the two watermelon-sized balls of lightning colliding, Lu Kuan muttered, looking at the way this little guy drilled into the ground, it probably has some ability to penetrate. Trapped by the balls of lightning made of silver dragon meteorite iron, it should be safe. It turned out that when the spirit beast bag was opened, the silver silkworm goo woke up from its slumber. It immediately wanted to escape, but it didn't expect that the poison it spat out had no effect at all. After the poison gas entered Lu Kuan's internal organs, it didn't have time to corrode these organs before it was wrapped up by the vigorous lightning, attribute magic power in the internal organs. While Lu Kuan was capturing the silver silkworm goo, he had also seen the silver light clearly. It was a silver silkworm that was much fatter than ordinary silkworms, and its bottom was covered with pink, slender legs. In its earliest form, the silver silkworm goo's two large eyes took up half of its head, and the poisonous fog was spewed out from the small mouth under its eyes. Later on, when it turned into the silver needle form, its eyes were so small that it was difficult to capture them, and the mouth also disappeared. Lu Kuan placed the combined lightning ball that contained the silver silkworm goo to one side. Fortunately, there were inlaid grooves on both sides of the lightning ball. When the two grooves were locked together, it was a small enclosed space that could hold the silver silkworm goo. Then, he circulated the magic power in his internal organs. At the same time, a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He opened his mouth, and a lump of black liquid accurately entered the jade bottle. I was still thinking about how to force the poison out of this silver silkworm goo. I didn't expect it to have intelligence and launch a poisonous fog attack, allowing me to successfully obtain this silver silkworm goo poison. But this silver silkworm goo is a bit strange. Let's take a look at Qing Tian's jade scroll first. Lu Kuan muttered to himself, and opened the jade scroll that explained the silver silkworm goo technique. For cultivators outside of the goo poison sect to cultivate the goo technique, it could be said to be extremely difficult. Without the goo poison sect's basic techniques, outsiders couldn't even refine the simplest goo. But Lu Kuan and company captured this silver silkworm goo for the poison in its body and didn't even think of refining it. After only 2 hours, Lu Kuan finished reading this jade scroll. He muttered, "According to what is written here, this silver silkworm goo needs to go through 3 blood refinements before it can be completely used." Little Yun said that this silver silkworm goo was immediately seized by them after the first blood refinement. In such a short time, the original 10,000 poison worm's intelligence might not have completely disappeared. So after it woke up, the first thing it did was to resist and escape. The goo poison sect's goo techniques are all used to strengthen these heaven and earth spirit worms. Although this 10,000 poison worm has only gone through the first blood refinement, it is much stronger than before. Little Yun and Little Yin were poisoned by the poison of a silver silkworm goo that has been refined at least twice. Lu Kuan frowned. That is to say, the silver silkworm goo poison I have collected now is at least a little weaker than theirs. The silver silkworm goo poison will be tested last. Let's take a look at the other poisons they have collected first. Lu Kuan put the jade scroll and the jade bottle containing the silver silkworm goo poison aside, preparing to test the poison. One had to know that the poisons refined by cultivators were completely different from those refined by mortals. The poisonous materials inside were all of the same grade as spear herbs. If it was an ordinary mortal poison, even an ordinary cultivator with an ordinary constitution would not be affected. Lu Kuan first tested the corrosive poison that Huang Xiaoyun and the others were poisoned with. In order to test the effects of the poison, Lu Kuan first dripped some on his skin. This was because when Little Yun and the others were poisoned, it was injected through their skin. When this incomparably black drop of poison with a strong, rancid smell dripped onto Lu Kuan's arm, the poison first made a sizzling sound. At this time, Lu Kuan felt the power of an intermediate beginner level spell acting on his skin. Clearly, this kind of power was unable to break through Lu Kuan's defense. After this drop of poison had no effect on the corrosion, it spread out and turned into a fine mist, wanting to infiltrate. In order to test the strength of this poison, Lu Kuan simply relaxed his tense muscles and restrained his body's magic power, allowing the poison mist to enter his arm. After the corrosive poison entered his arm, it was like a fish in water, rapidly spreading in all directions. The corrosive power of the poison instantly spread throughout Lu Kuan's entire right arm, causing his arm to turn jet black. Next, the poison wanted to infiltrate Lu Kuan's blood. Unfortunately, even if Lu Kuan restrained his blood's magic power, this corrosive poison was dispersed by his exuberant qi in blood, unable to enter his blood vessels. Moreover, this little bit of poison was only able to spread throughout one of Lu Kuan's arms. This poison is trying to corrode my muscles. With the current strength of my muscles, even if I don't use magic power to resist, it won't be able to cause any damage. The amount of poison is too small. It will gradually exhaust its toxicity and disappear in my body. If it can't corrode my muscles, then it won't be able to help temper my body. According to the strength of the poison just now, this corrosive power should be able to cause a certain amount of damage to body cultivators in the muscle refining and bone tempering stages. In other words, it should be able to help them temper their bodies. However, after entering the blood condensation stage, not only will my qi and blood greatly increase, but my muscles will also be strengthened to a very high level. This level of poison won't be able to do anything to me. Next, he tested the effects of the corrosive poison a few more times. After pondering for a moment, he recorded it on a new jade slip, corrosive poison. It has a strong tempering effect. It is extremely helpful for muscle refining stage cultivators, but it is very dangerous for muscle refining stage cultivators to use. It is very likely that the poison will enter the blood and cause internal organs to corrode and die. For bone tempering stage cultivators, the effect is average and the danger is relatively low. Chapter 484. Over the next 2 days, Lu Kuan used various methods to test out the remaining poisons. One by one, he listed out the effects of these poisons on body tempering. Some of them had no effect on Lu Kuan, but there were one or two that could help someone at the viscera forging stage. With spirit powder, numbs the magic power in the body. Has no effect on body cultivators. Heart-shattering pill. Poison completely targets the heart. Has little effect on body cultivators below the viscera forging stage. Cannot be fatal. Viscera forging stage body cultivators will not be affected. Has no effect on body tempering. Blue corpse poison. Transformed from corpse poison. Corrodes the flesh. Has an auxiliary effect on body cultivators at the muscle refining stage. Has no effect on body cultivators at the bone tempering stage and above. Black striped scorpion poison contaminates the blood. Spreads poison through the blood, causing the body to fester. Has a significant effect on body cultivators below the viscera forging stage. Has a life-threatening effect on body cultivators at the viscera forging stage. Has an auxiliary effect on body cultivators at the viscera forging stage. Has an ordinary danger. Star-colored viper poison. Produces a foreign substance in the muscles that stimulates the nerves. Amplifies the senses of the body's nerves, causing the body to feel pain dozens of times over. Has no effect on body tempering, but can assist in the cultivation of the soul sensing technique. Can speed up the cultivation of the divine sense. The cultivation process is extremely painful and can cause one to faint at any time. After he finished annotating all the poisons that Huang Xiaoyan had brought over, Lu Kuan let out a deep breath. He said with satisfaction, although most poisons have little effect on body tempering, there are still many that have miraculous effects on body tempering at various stages. For instance, this bottle of black, striped scorpion poison. It actually has a great effect on tempering my internal organs. I have to ask Little Yun where it came from. Generally speaking, poisons can be mixed. If you can find poison materials that are helpful to body cultivators, then you can refine them together. Then you can create an auxiliary system for body tempering. Will this cost more than talismans? Body tempering magic consumes much less spirit stones. Then Lu Kuan sighed and said, unfortunately, there are too few body cultivators. Right now, my main focus is on breaking through to the next realm. The other disciples also need to quickly increase their cultivation. This method of making poisons is more complicated than alchemy. If you want to master it, it will take a lot of time. We can't afford to delay. Now, we can only let the treasure pavilion collect as many poisons as possible from the market. I'll pick a few that are useful for body cultivators and buy them in bulk. Once our cultivation improves, we'll see if there are any disciples with such talent who can study poison techniques. Next, Lu Kuan looked at the thunderball at the side, or rather, the silver silkworm goo inside the thunderball. The reason why Little Yun and Little Yan's physical bodies have improved so much in the past year is because of the strong toxicity produced by the combination of the silver silkworm insect poison and the corrosive poison. Finally, I have to try this. Lu Kuan was very careful. He poured out some of the silver silkworm goo's black venom from the previous jade bottle and used a new empty bottle to catch it. Then, he poured the same amount of corrosive poison into it. The two immediately reacted. They were both black venom, but after mixing, it suddenly turned dark green. There was even some faint green smoke emitting from it. Just the poisonous gas emitted from it was much stronger than the corrosive poison. There's still a lot of corrosive poison left, but there's not much silver silkworm insect poison left. I have to make the most of its toxicity to not waste it. Lu Kuan grabbed the bottle of dark green venom with one hand and muttered. Little Yun and Little Yin were hit by the enemy with these two poisons on their skin and then penetrated into their bodies. With the strength of their physical bodies, the poison is not at its strongest when it enters their bodies. But my physical body is several times stronger than theirs. If it enters from the outside, this poison won't be able to exert its true effect. After saying that, Lu Kuan's eyes flashed, and he directly poured the poisonous liquid that was emitting green smoke into his mouth. In order to conserve the power of this poisonous liquid, he even used his magic power to wrap it up when it entered his mouth. After it entered his internal organs, he withdrew his Fa Li. Even with the strength of Lu Kuan's physical body, when this powerful poison entered his internal organs, he immediately felt a heart-wrenching pain. This dark green poison was even more powerful than he imagined. After entering his internal organs, it almost instantly spread. Lu Kuan immediately used the Imperial Lightning Body technique. His blood filled with thunder attribute Fa Li rushed into his internal organs and continued to repair the internal organs that were corroded by the poison. He controlled the desire to use his thunder attribute Fa Li to purify the poison and endured the pain in his internal organs. He only used his Fa Li blood to repair the damaged internal organs. Because he didn't swallow much of the poisonous liquid, after about half an hour, the poisonous liquid was completely used up in the process of corroding his internal organs. After making sure that there was no poison left in his body, Lu Kuan carefully sensed the situation of his internal organs. He was pleasantly surprised to find that in such a short period of time, the changes in his internal organs were equivalent to 2 days of tempering with the abundant spirit energy of Spirit Island. I also swallowed the corrosive poison before to test it. Before it could do anything, it was scattered by the vigorous blood energy in my body. It didn't cause much damage to my internal organs. It seems that the problem lies with the silver silkworm goo poison. Thinking of this, Lu Kuan directly picked up the jade bottle containing the silver silkworm goo poison and poured half of the black liquid into his mouth. When he was attacked by the silver silkworm goo poison before, in order to be safe, he directly wrapped it with his internal organs Fa Li, so he didn't experience the toxicity of the silver silkworm goo poison. Now, after he put the silver silkworm goo poison into his mouth, he first wrapped it with Fa Li like before. After it entered his internal organs, he released it. Lu Kuan felt a little strange. The silver silkworm goo poison gave him the feeling that it was similar to the corrosive poison. In terms of strength, it was only a little stronger. Similarly, after the silver silkworm goo poison spread, it only caused a little damage to his internal organs before it was evaporated by Lu Kuan's vigorous blood energy. The silver silkworm goo poison's toxicity is so weak when used alone, but after it was mixed with the corrosive poison, there was a qualitative change? Could it be? Lu Kuan's eyes suddenly lit up as he muttered to himself. He thought of another possibility, so he quickly poured all the remaining silver silkworm goo poison into the black-striped scorpion poison jade bottle, which was the most toxic from before. The originally purple-black scorpion poison turned purple after the addition of the silver silkworm goo poison. It emitted a purple smoke, and just by smelling it, Lu Kuan felt that his blood energy was a little stagnant. Looking at the poison in front of him, Lu Kuan thought about it and said with a cautious expression, "If it's really as I guessed, then this black-striped scorpion poison mixed with the silver silkworm goo poison is more powerful than the corrosive poison." After hesitating for a while, Lu Kuan very cautiously took out a drop of the mixed poison. This time, he didn't put it into his mouth, but took out a long saber magic weapon and used all his strength to cut a small hole in his hand, dripping the drop of poison into it. Chapter 485. What a strong poison. Lu Kuan's body twitched slightly. If the corrosive poison mixed with the silver silkworm insect poison was said to corrode the internal organs, then the black-striped scorpion poison would corrode the entire body. However, Lu Kuan only used 1 drop. He channeled the body refining art with all his strength. After only half an hour, the poison was completely consumed. Lu Kuan wiped the sweat from his forehead and said with a surprised expression, "The black-striped scorpion poison, after mixing, is at least 1 level more toxic than before. The effect is more significant than before. It seems that I didn't guess wrong." In addition to its own toxicity, the silver silkworm insect poison's biggest effect is to enhance the toxicity of other poisons. The previous corrosive poison and the black-striped scorpion poison are the same. Lu Kuan looked at the bottles in front of him and began to calculate in his heart. The corrosive poison is the most important at the moment. The strengthened corrosive poison can greatly accelerate the cultivation speed of Qing Tian and the others in the bone tempering stage and reach the blood condensation stage as soon as possible. I must buy a lot. The black-striped scorpion poison can also help me shorten the cultivation time to reach the peak of body tempering stage. Thus, I have more time to prepare for the breakthrough of bone treasure stage. Lu Kuan looked at the colorful venom below and murmured, "The second is this star-colored viper poison. The star-colored viper poison is strengthened by the silver silkworm insect poison. The stimulation of the nerves is more intense. In these years, I feel that my divine art has almost reached the peak stage. Even if I rely on the mysterious wooden bracelet, it can only make my divine sense more refined. It can't break through. This star-colored viper poison is likely to help my divine sense break through. Just like Xiao Hongfei, I reached the core formation stage and the foundation establishment stage." In the end, Lu Kuan's eyes looked at the silver silkworm goo that was trapped by the lightning ball and frowned. Then he took out the goo poison sex jade slip from his storage bag and read it carefully. After a long time, Lu Kuan made a decision in his heart. With a flash of light in his hand, he put away all the poisons below and grabbed the thunderball in his hand. Then, he opened the cave house's restriction. Then, he activated the lightning-driving evasion and shot toward the demonic chi area with a loud rumble. With the further improvement of his cultivation, Lu Kuan's Imperial Thunder escape technique became more and more proficient. Although he still couldn't stand in the air under his control, he could reduce his speed at any time and land steadily. When Lu Kuan was halfway through his flight, he suddenly thought of something. He controlled his transcendence energy and made a turn, flying towards an immortal's cave with dense spiritual energy. "Xiao Yan, come with me." When Lu Kuan arrived at the entrance of Pan Yan's cave dwelling, his voice was like thunder. After entering the viscera forging stage, Lu Kuan's various organs were strengthened. As long as he wanted to, his voice would be extremely loud. Not long after, Pan Yan walked out with a confused look on his face. "Master, what's wrong? Before he could finish speaking, Lu Kuan grabbed Pan Yan's arm and they flew into the sky, towards the demonic aura area. The Demon Spirit Island's demonic aura was similar to the Spirit Demon Valley. It was a valley with forests and streams, surrounded by small mountains. The only difference was that there weren't any living creatures. Xiao Jin and the silver-spotted leopard were cultivating in the forest with dense demonic chi. The two demonic beasts heard Lu Kuan's escape light from afar. On demonic Spirit Island, only Lu Kuan could be accompanied by a thunderous escape light. They recovered from their cultivation and rushed toward Lu Kuan's position. It must be known that Lu Kuan rarely came to this demonic chi area. This time, he must have come to find them for something. Lu Kuan carefully looked at the two demonic beasts walking over, especially the silver-spotted leopard, Xiao Hui. Its aptitude for absorbing demonic chi was not much worse than Xiao Jin's. After a few years of cultivation on demonic Spirit Island, the demonic chi in its body had become even more vigorous. It was too far away from breakthrough. Even compared to other demon beasts with top aptitudes, Xiao Hui's cultivation speed was extremely fast. In the past, Su Tianchuan had not only given Xiao Hui some pills to increase his cultivation, but he had also eaten a lot of heavenly treasures that were beneficial to demon beasts. Even the other core formation cultivators in the sect fed it some good things. This pure energy had always been hidden in Xiao Hui's body. As it cultivated diligently, it finally showed its value. Compared to Xiao Hui, Xiao Jin's cultivation speed was very slow even though he had the abundant demonic chi here. He was now in the blood condensation realm, a body cultivator. He needed a lot of time to improve the blood in his body and strengthen his organs. Once this stage was over, it would naturally become a level 4 demonic beast. Seeing the two demonic beasts approaching, Lu Kuan formed a seal and set up an isolation barrier around the lightning ball. He asked, "Xiao Jin, other than being able to understand the sounds of apes, can you also understand the words of other demonic beasts?" The little monkey had just arrived beside Lu Kuan when it heard this question. It was stunned for a moment before it nodded proudly. Lu Kuan looked at the silver-spotted leopard and asked, "Xiao Hui, what about you?" Xiao Hui looked at the proud little monkey and could only helplessly shake its head. After all, it had been with Xiao Jin for so many years, so it could only understand the meaning of the little monkey's cry. "In a moment, I will release a spiritual insect. It is quite intelligent, so I want to communicate with it. If it says anything, Xiao Jin, translate it for me." Hearing Lu Kuan's words, Xiao Jin's face fell, and it kept squeaking. Its meaning couldn't be more obvious. It was probably saying that demonic beasts were demonic beasts after all. There was still a big difference between them and insects. Panyan also didn't understand what his master wanted to do and could only stand at the side in a daze. Lu Kuan ignored the little monkey's complaints and took out a set of formation tools from Zhai Xing Z from his storage bag. He set up a defensive formation on the spot, but the direction of the defense was towards the inside. Then he instructed Pan Yin, "Xiao Yin, your earth attribute technique is quite powerful. Reinforce the soil under this defensive formation." Hearing this, Pan Yin made a simple hand sign and shot a ray of light at the ground. Then the ground under the formation became as hard as granite. Little Pan Yin was quite satisfied with the spell. His thick earth body only showed its true innate talent after entering the bone-tempering stage. His defensive power was one aspect, and using earth attribute spells was even more like a fish in water. Just when little Pan Yin thought that his matter was over, Lu Kuan spoke again. "Xiao Yin, take out a black gold shield and use the earth escape technique to drill under this layer of rock. Use the black gold shield as the last line of defense." Master, can I bury the black gold shield under the ground?" Lu Kuan's face became serious. "Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and go down." Hearing this, Pan Yin could only grimace and obediently take out the black gold shield. His body flashed with a yellow light, and he sank into the ground. Lu Kuan looked at the foolproof arrangement and threw the falling thunderball in his hand into the formation below. Then he activated the formation's defensive restriction. As the falling thunderball separated, a ray of silver light flew out and hit the defensive restriction. Then it turned into a silver needle and flew around. Chapter 486. Little guy, you finally calmed down. You should know that I'm not the one who refined you into a goo insect. That person has been killed by my disciples. Lu Kuan tried his best to speak in a harmless tone when he saw the silver silkworm had stopped. However, he found that the silver silkworm's eyes were still flashing with vigilance, which made him relax a lot. This meant that the little guy's intelligence was not low and he could communicate with it. He continued, "Little guy, you should have felt the demonic aura around you. Although you're a spiritual insect, the demonic aura is still very helpful to you." When it heard this, the fat silkworm was stunned. It just realized that there was a strong demonic aura here. Then, its big eyes flashed with surprise. Lu Kuan saw this and said, "This place is where my sect is. I don't ask for much. As long as you sign a contract with me, you can enjoy all the demonic aura here." When the fat silkworm heard about the contract, it immediately retreated, as if it was afraid of the contract. "But don't worry, I won't let you fight. I just need you to provide some venom. How about it, little guy? Think about it." When the fat silkworm heard that it only needed to provide venom, its eyes rolled and its mouth made a series of chirping sounds. Lu Kuan immediately looked at Xiao Jin, who was at the side. The little monkey looked a little embarrassed and stuttered, unable to say anything. "Sigh, so you don't understand. It seems that there is a big difference between insects and demonic beasts," Lu Kuan murmured. But just when Lu Kuan and Xiao Jin were stunned, the fat silkworm suddenly turned into a silver needle, emitting a more dazzling light, and suddenly poked down. By the time Lu Kuan came back to his senses, the silver needle that the little fellow had turned into had already penetrated the restriction he had set up. The reinforced rock was not able to obstruct it in the slightest, and it was inserted smoothly. Little fat silkworm was very happy. It was the 1,000-poison silkworm, an expert in earth elemental escape techniques. After being refined by that human, it seemed to have become stronger. As long as it could go underground, it didn't believe that this human would be able to catch it again. It was fantasizing that in the future, this land, full of Yao Qi, would completely belong to it. As long as it had enough time, it could even take another step forward and reach a realm that the other myriad poison silkworms could only look up to. Clang! Before the fat silkworm could finish its thought, it hit an extremely hard steel plate, which made its sharp head dizzy. Then, it was pushed back by the steel plate and returned to the previous restriction. Little fat silkworm recovered from a silver needle state and stared at the ferocious dark golden shield below its feet. This was not something its divine ability could penetrate. Then, as if it had sensed something, it looked towards the empty space beside it. There was a flash of yellow light, and an even taller young man appeared. It was none other than Pan Yin, who had just blocked the fat silkworm. "Master, I have fixed the black gold shield at the bottom with a rock transformation technique. This little guy can't escape." Lu Kuan nodded and looked at little fat silkworm, who had a strange look in its eyes. A small lightning ball appeared in his hand. It wasn't very powerful, but it was about the strength of a palm lightning. He didn't say a word and just threw it in. This restriction shield only protected the inside, but not the outside. There was almost no space to move inside, so the fat silkworm was hit by the lightning ball. Although the fat silkworm's level was almost equivalent to a level 2 beast, its body was so small that even if it wasn't life-threatening, it would still be very painful after being hit by a primary top-tier spell. Its silver body turned black, but its big eyes were full of stubbornness. Lu Kuan snorted and said, "Don't think that I really need you. If it was a normal insect, I would have killed it and taken its poison. Why would I let you live?" Seeing a trace of fear in little fat silkworm's eyes, Lu Kuan slowed down his tone and said, "If it wasn't for your intelligence, I would have killed you when I was in the cave. How about this? I will take a step back. I only need you to follow me for 200 years. After 200 years, I will give you back your freedom. During these 200 years, you can cultivate in a place full of monster chi. I don't need you to fight for me. I just need you to give me some of your poison." Little fat silkworm's expression froze. It didn't expect this person to give it back its freedom after signing a contract with it, and he didn't need it to fight. In other words, after signing the contract, it could still cultivate freely in this heavenly place. It just needed to give it some of its poison, which made it a bit hesitant. Lu Kuan sighed and said, "If you don't agree to this, I will have to kill you. I will spend a lot of money, and I might be able to find other poisons outside." After he finished speaking, 2 more dazzling lightning balls appeared in his hands. He threw them into the air, and the 2 lightning balls directly hit a low-altitude cloud. Then Lu Kuan formed a spell with his hands. Waves of shocking thunder came from the thunder cloud above, as if a violent lightning bolt would strike down at any time. Now that Lu Kuan had reached the viscera forging stage, the magic power within his body was even purer than that of a normal late foundation establishment cultivator. In addition to his innate thunder spiritual roots, the Thunderfall technique, a top-grade thunder attribute magic technique, could already be easily used by him. Even through the restriction, Fat Silkworm could still feel the power of the lightning above. As long as it was hit, it would die without a doubt. Fat Silkworm felt the monster chi around it, and looked at the 2 beasts and 2 people around it. It continued to cry out, and its eyes showed a look of submission. Seeing this, Lu Kuan stopped the spell in his hands. The thunder cloud above gradually condensed into a purple lightning bolt and struck down. Fat Silkworm was frightened and kept crying out. Boom! This purple lightning bolt directly hit Lu Kuan, but he was unscathed. Lu Kuan didn't seem to care about this thunder fall technique. He asked the little monkey, "Xiao Jin, do you still not understand this sentence?" The little monkey shook its head helplessly. At this time, the little silkworm raised its tail and pointed at Pan Yin, who was staring at Lu Kuan with a stunned expression. Its mouth kept crying out. Lu Kuan looked at the silkworm's expression and then glanced at Xiao Yin, who was in a daze. He thought to himself that it was indeed the case. He immediately said, "Xiao Yin, why are you in a daze? Hurry up and sign a contract with this spiritual insect." Pan Yin said blankly, "Contract? What contract?" Lu Kuan's face darkened. He used the thunderous explosion steps and appeared behind Pan Yin in a flash. He kicked him into the restriction shield and said coldly, "I will teach you the mind control spell. Do as I say." Then, under the guidance of Lu Kuan, Pan Yin signed a contract with this spiritual insect that the disciples of the Gu Poison sect dreamed of. Seeing that the contract was completed, Lu Kuan let out a sigh of relief and removed the restriction shield. He looked at Pan Yin, who was at a loss, and the little silkworm, who was running around happily, and explained helplessly, "Xiao Yin, you also know that this is the silver silkworm that you caught. However, because it has only been refined once, and because this silkworm already has a high level of intelligence, you can only obtain an endless amount of silver silkworm goo poison by signing a contract with it. Whether or not your cultivation speed can increase will all depend on this little fellow." Pan Yin seemed to understand something and said in surprise, "Master." Lu Kuan looked at the overjoyed silkworms and said in a good mood, "That's right. I've almost finished researching the effects of those poisons on the body. This silver silkworm goo poison is the most important part." Pan Yin suddenly understood and said, "So Master wants to subdue this spiritual insect for its poison?" "Yes, so the task of collecting the silver silkworm poison will be handed over to you." Chapter 487. When Lu Kuan and the others subdued the silver silkworm goo, Zhu Xiaofeng hadn't left yet. Lu Kuan discussed with him the resources that the body cultivator pavilion needed to purchase, and even took out most of his spirit stones. He asked Huang Xiaoyun about the black-striped scorpion venom. He found it in a demonic cultivator storage bag and had never seen it on the market. When Huang Xiaoyun said this, Lu Kuan knew that the black-striped scorpion venom should be very rare. If he wanted to collect it, he would need to spend a lot of resources, so he took out most of his spirit stones. At the same time, Xiao Yun and Xiao Yin also gave Zhu Xiaofeng their harvest from killing evil cultivators over the years. Currently, they needed to buy a lot of corrosive poison and black-striped scorpion venom. The more corrosive poison, the better. According to the information that Huang Xiaoyun and the others heard in the northern Barren State, many demonic cultivators who knew how to refine poison could refine this kind of corrosive poison. They should be able to buy a lot in the northern Barren State. As for the black-striped scorpion venom, it was very difficult to find in the northern Barren State. They could put up a sign at the Abyss auction house and ask for it. In addition to these two poisons, Lu Kuan also entrusted Zhu Xiaofeng to buy some star-colored viper venom in the northern Barren State. Huang Xiaoyun and the others told Lu Kuan that this kind of poison was used by demonic cultivators to torture immortal cultivators, so it wasn't difficult to find. Lu Kuan wanted this not only to help him break through his divine sense technique, but also to prepare for the next generation of disciples. Traditionally, the biggest obstacle in the early stage of immortal cultivators was the bottleneck of the foundation establishment stage. However, if there were enough foundation establishment pills, even immortal cultivators with mixed spiritual roots of 5 attributes could succeed in the foundation establishment stage. However, the body cultivator lineage was a little different. The difficulty in the early stage was to break through from the muscle refining stage to the bone tempering stage. At this time, the spiritual root aptitude was still okay, but it only affected the speed of body tempering. The most important thing was the breakthrough of divine sense power. For example, Zhao Qingtian and the others also broke through from the muscle refining stage to the bone tempering stage when their divine sense power reached the foundation establishment stage or above. If they recruited the next generation of disciples, the divine sense power will be the first obstacle that restricted body cultivators. Therefore, it was time to collect the astral-colored venom. At the same time, he had to think of a way to obtain the origins or refining methods of these 3 poisons. In addition to the sandstar worm meat from before, the body refining pavilion would have a batch of items that could assist in cultivation. With these, the internal reward system of the pavilion would be able to operate. After understanding Lu Kuan's needs, Zhu Xiaofeng hurriedly left Spirit Island. He did not return to Abyssal Island, but went directly to northern Barren State. The Chaotic Ocean was located in the north of the Shiyuan State, right next to the northern Barren State. Zhu Xiaofeng planned to collect them in the various markets of the northern Barren State. Although the northern Barren State was very dangerous for normal cultivators, core formation cultivators did not have such concerns. Due to the existence of the Supreme Devil Palace, core formation demonic cultivators of the Qi Kingdom rarely came to the northern Barren State. In addition to Zhu Xiaofeng's cultivation method, after reaching the core formation stage, he would have a few powerful spells. Also, thanks to Lu Kuan, the materials from the star-plucking child's treasure could be used to refine a treasure. With Qin Yushu's help, Zhu Xiaofeng had already refined a treasure. Even if he were to face a veteran core formation stage cultivator, he would still be able to fight. Just as Zhu Xiaofeng was heading to the northern Barren State, in the Abyssal Island Market, in the Abyss Pavilion, 3 cultivators were sitting at the head of the reception hall. One of them was a man who was not very tall. He wore a fiery red robe and had an extraordinary aura. The air around him was slightly distorted, as if it was being burned by flames. To produce such a phenomenon, one could imagine what kind of terrifying fire elemental cultivation method he cultivated. Sitting beside him was a tall female cultivator with a veil covering her face. This female cultivator was completely different from the male cultivator. Her body exuded a cold and gloomy aura, and her eyes exuded a shocking gaze. She had extraordinary attainments in her cultivation method and spiritual sense. As for the last person, he was an old man. Compared to the 2 people in front of him, he looked very ordinary. His hair and beard were a faint golden color, especially his eyebrows, which were as long as his hair. There was no powerful wave of energy coming from him. Su Ming, you're still not a core disciple of the Fallen Cloud Valley. The man in the fiery red robe spoke. He looked at the skinny man in the black robe below him. This man in the black robe was the manager of the Abyss Pavilion, who helped Zhu Xiaofeng set up the Treasure Pavilion, Su Ming. Su Ming's expression could not be more honest. He replied respectfully, Senior Ouyang, my talent is ordinary. I am not qualified to become a core disciple of the sect. The corners of the red-robed man's mouth curled up slightly. Fellow Taoist Han Yefeng, Fairy and I are old friends. We fought side by side in the past. If I speak a few words to fellow Taoist Han, you can definitely enter the ranks of the sect's core disciples. Su Ming didn't show any excitement. Instead, he smiled bitterly. Seniors, it's not that I don't want to, but in these years, the cultivators you mentioned have not appeared in the Abyss City. Although the Abyss Auction House has some top-grade magic tools and even pseudo-magic treasures, they're all auctioned by different cultivators. Hearing Su Ming's words, the man in the red robe looked at the old man with yellow eyebrows and said, Fellow cultivator with yellow eyebrows, it seems your information is not accurate. They have never been to the Abyss Island. The old man with yellow eyebrows frowned and muttered, Impossible, this information was provided by that senior. It shouldn't be fake. This sentence made the man and woman beside him curious. The female cultivator asked, Fellow cultivator with yellow eyebrows, is the senior you mentioned senior sure of your sect? The old man with yellow eyebrows shook his head and said, The nascent soul cultivator of the Yang clan didn't fall into our hands. Instead, he was kidnapped by Senior Pang of the Blood Refining Sect. This Abyss Island was recently obtained by Senior Pang from his nascent soul. Old Demon Pang of the Blood Refining Sect. The man in the red robe's face changed and revealed a look of horror. The female cultivator beside him also showed the same expression. It seemed that this old Demon Pang was very terrifying. Su Ming, who was below, heard these words and his body clearly trembled. The man in the red robe muttered, Since this demon senior tortured him, it shouldn't be wrong. But fellow cultivator with yellow eyebrows, this senior didn't get any other information besides the Abyss Island? The old man with yellow eyebrows sighed and said, Regarding the remnants of the Yang clan, there were only these 3 words. The man in the red robe looked at Su Ming and said solemnly, In that case, their escape route should be this Abyss Island. Su Ming, think about it again. Don't tell me there aren't any cultivators with astonishing tool refinement skills. Su Ming was also very anxious. Of the people in front of him, the old man with yellow eyebrows was said to be a core formation cultivator from the state of Wei. As for the other 2, one was Ouyang Lu of the Scorching Sun sect, and the other was an Ur of the Ghost Spirit sect. They were both newly ascended core formation cultivators. He couldn't afford to provoke them on this Abyss Island. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and said, That's right, there is a group of people. They are tool refiners, but what? Chapter 488. Su Ming thought of something and said, "That's right, there was an early core formation cultivator among them. My martial uncle encountered him once and said that he was no weaker than a mid-core formation cultivator. He seemed to be extremely fearful of him." And Iu said with astonishment, "A mid-core formation cultivator? That shouldn't be the case. According to what we know, all of the Yang clan's core formation cultivators have been exterminated. The ones that escaped were at most late Foundation establishment. It's impossible for them to enter core formation in such a short time. Even if Lu Kuan is powerful, he was only a mid-Foundation establishment cultivator 20 years ago. I fear he hasn't even reached late Foundation establishment yet." The yellow-browed old man sighed. "I rushed here from the state of Wei, but I didn't expect to return empty-handed." It turned out that this core formation stage old man was the yellow-browed Taoist of the Devil Spirit sect. Previously, he had lost sight of Lu Kuan and the others and received a heavy punishment from the sect. Fortunately, his former senior martial brother, who was the fifth nascent soul stage cultivator in the sect, had given him a chance to redeem himself. Huang Mei knew that the Yang clan's nascent soul ancestor had fallen into old Devil Pang's hands. He felt that with his late nascent soul cultivation, he would be able to find the method to refine sentient puppets from the ancestor's nascent soul. However, the miraculous gate still sent him out to search for the ancestor. Huang Mei even suspected that old Devil Pang had already obtained the sentient puppets technique and simply didn't want to tell them about it. The reason why Huang Mei was sent out to carry out this mission, apart from the fact that he was a new nascent soul cultivator, was because his aptitude was relatively poor among the core formation cultivators. As for the ghost spirit sect that Niu belonged to, they had some relations with the miraculous gate and had some dealings with core formation cultivators. As a result, the ghost spirit sect was very clear about the Yang clan's affairs. And Niu had also told the ghost spirit sect's elders about her encounter with Lu Kuan on the Demon Devil Island. Naturally, the miraculous gate also received this information. Coupled with the fact that the blood-refining sect's old Devil Pang mentioned the Abyssal Island, the miraculous gate dispatched Huang Mei. After Huang Mei left, he went straight to the ghost spirit sect to find an Niu. After asking about the situation back then, an Niu volunteered to go with Huang Mei to search for the Yang clan's disciples. An Niu wanted to deal with Lu Kuan. After all, Lu Kuan had almost killed her on Demon Island. As for Yangla from the Scorching Sun sect, they had met him on the way. Yangla had also told Huang Mei that there was a cultivator at the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm who had left the Demon Island. That cultivator should be Lu Kuan. This core formation stage cultivator of the Scorching Sun sect also seemed to be interested in Lu Kuan. He requested to come along and said that he knew the deacon of the Abyss Pavilion. But when they arrived, the core formation deacon of the Abyss Pavilion was in seclusion. In the end, they could only find Su Ming, a disciple of the Falling Cloud Valley who was often away on business. Yangla looked at Huang Mei and said, "Fellow Taoist Huang Mei, since the remaining disciples of the Yang clan aren't here, I'll be taking my leave." Huang Mei cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks for fellow Taoist Yangla's help. I still have to stay in the Abyssal Market for a while. I want to take a look at the shop that fellow Taoist Su mentioned." Yangla nodded and looked at the ghost spirit sect's female cultivator. His eyes flickered with red light as he said, "Fairy and I, we haven't seen each other for over 20 years. Now that we've entered core formation, my hands are itching. How about we have a spar?" The main reason Yangla followed Huang Mei and Niu was to spar with Niu. It had to be said that his junior martial brothers were almost tricked by Niu. He wanted to teach this demoness a lesson. As for the Yang clan's Lu Kuan, although his strength was valiant, he was only a Foundation establishment cultivator. He wasn't worthy of the attention of a core formation cultivator. A trace of anger flashed through Niu's eyes. She originally resented Lu Kuan. Now that she couldn't find him, she felt stifled in her heart. When she heard Yangla's words, she immediately replied coldly, "All right. Since fellow Taoist Yangla is itching for a spar, I'll accompany you." With that said, the two of them walked out of the island, intending to find a place to spar. Huang Mei looked at the two of them and shook his head. He turned to Su Ming and said, "Fellow Taoist Su, where's the treasure tool pavilion you mentioned before? Can you take me there?" Su Ming hurriedly nodded his head in agreement. From their previous conversation, he already knew that this core formation stage elder came from the powerful Devil Spirit sect in the state of Wei. That was a powerful sect with 5 nascent soul stage cultivators. Even in the state of Chu, it could be ranked as one of the top 5 sections. Su Ming wore a flattering smile and led Huang Mei to the treasure tool pavilion. At this moment, Song Ping, a late Foundation establishment cultivator, was in the treasure tool pavilion. Originally, it should have been Duruo Qiao. However, after meeting with Sher Chao, she said that the two of them had some similarities and needed to go into seclusion for a few days. Thus, Song Ping came to replace her for a few days. Of course, Song Ping was only there to oversee the shop. Some of the work of selling immortal treasures was done by the mortals they recruited. In the backyard of the treasure tool pavilion, there were sounds of hammering. Yu Xian was modifying his scorching flame hammer. Although he had forged a complete set of spiritual immortal treasures many years ago, there were still some limitations. This time, he planned to modify the scorching flame hammer. In between the handle and the hammerhead, there was a slot that could be embedded. This way, the scorching flame hammer could be separated into a short rod and a hammerhead. The short rod was fine, but the hammerhead could be used by Yu Xian for long-range attacks, making up for his lack of attacking methods. This time, the difficulty of refining was how to maintain the 2 scorching flame hammers as a complete set. In the backyard stood a middle-aged man. It was Xiao Hongfei. With regards to Xiao Hongfei, Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu were quite reliant on him. This treasure tool pavilion shop allowed him to enter and leave as he pleased. Xiao Hongfei was currently carefully observing Yu Xian's refining techniques. He knew that Lu Kuan's refining techniques were also somewhat unusual. Xiao Hongfei had secretly tried this kind of forging technique before. He discovered that no matter how precisely he controlled the hammer with magic, there was no way he could forge materials to the same level as Lu Kuan's. In fact, he couldn't even forge materials as good as his disciples. This caused Xiao Hongfei to feel somewhat embarrassed. At this time, he took advantage of the fact that Qin Yushu and the others weren't present to openly observe the process of Lu Kuan's disciple refining immortal treasures. Huh? A core formation cultivator came in? Xiao Hongfei suddenly revealed a trace of astonishment. With his powerful spiritual sense, he immediately sensed that a core formation cultivator had arrived in the front hall. When he discovered that it was an early core formation cultivator, he no longer paid attention to him and continued to watch Yu Xian, who was refining immortal treasures. The person who came was Yellow Eyebrows Taoist. He didn't participate in the battle at the Shangqing sect. At that time, Xiao Hongfei was only at the late Foundation establishment stage. He simply didn't know Yellow Eyebrows' name, so he didn't recognize that this old man was a cultivator from the Miraculous Gate. Yellow Eyebrows Taoist, who had just entered the treasure tool pavilion, was startled. Xiao Hongfei didn't conceal his spiritual sense, so he immediately sensed that this spiritual sense was almost at the peak of the middle core formation stage. This is the early core formation cultivator that Su Ming mentioned. He actually has such a powerful spiritual sense at the early core formation stage. Yellow Eyebrows' heart trembled. He unconsciously withdrew his magic power, and in his heart, he had some thoughts of retreating. However, he still roughly swept his gaze over the immortal treasures and the Foundation establishment cultivator in charge. He discovered that the quality of the immortal treasures could only be said to be good. They were far from the standard of the Yang clan. The Foundation establishment cultivator in charge was clearly seen under his spiritual sense. He wasn't a disciple of the Yang clan. Chapter 489. Zhu Xiaofeng went out to collect all kinds of poisons and formulas. It took him a full 5 years, almost spending all the savings of the body cultivation pavilion and the treasure pavilion. However, the time and spirit stones were not spent in vain. In addition to a large amount of corrosive poison and starry venom, as well as a small amount of black-striped scorpion venom. He also obtained the formulas for the corrosive poison and starry venom. The origin of the black-striped scorpion venom was also clearly investigated. The black-striped scorpion venom, as its name suggested, came from a poisonous insect called the black-striped scorpion. This strange insect had a hard shell and infinite strength. The scorpion's tail contained a poison that would cause its entire body to fester. After the black-striped scorpion reached adulthood, it would be at least a level 4 demonic beast. For a Foundation establishment cultivator, it would be very difficult to take it down one-on-one. Moreover, this strange insect was very rare in the cultivation world. Even if there was news about it, it would be surrounded by a large number of cultivators. It must be known that the shell and pincers of the black-striped scorpion were top-quality materials for refining high-grade magic tools. If they encountered a level 5 or higher black-striped scorpion, these materials only needed to be refined into a powerful magic tool. It was completely a blessing for cultivators with ordinary refining skills. Moreover, the black-striped scorpion's blood was a rare medicinal ingredient, which was also very useful for core formation cultivators. Therefore, as long as a black-striped scorpion appeared, there would be core formation cultivators hunting it. Although Lu Kuan and the others had the formula, they didn't refine it themselves. First, refining the materials would only consume more spirit stones. Second, they didn't have much time to study poison refining techniques. The poisons brought by Zhu Xiaofeng, in addition to the venom provided by the silver silkworm, were enough for Lu Kuan and the others to use for a while. Time flew by, and the sun and moon were like shuttles. For some powerful sects, a mere few decades wouldn't bring too much change. However, for the body cultivation pavilion and the treasure pavilion, which had just begun to develop, a lot of things had changed in this short period of time. In the 10th year, Lu Xiao of the treasure pavilion relied on the rich spiritual energy to enter the great circle of Foundation establishment. However, he was more cautious and didn't immediately try to break through. Instead, he cultivated the soul sensing technique. Moreover, the treasure pavilion still needed to save up some resources to buy the heaven change pill for him. In the Yang clan, Lu Xiao was synonymous with an ascetic cultivator. Although his aptitude wasn't bad, he strived for stability when it came to cultivation breakthroughs. In addition, he was much younger than Zhu Xiaofeng, so he wasn't in a hurry to break through. Through his interactions with Xiao Hongfei over the past few years, Lu Kuan knew that a strong spiritual sense would be very useful even for a normal core formation cultivator. Therefore, Lu Kuan decided to spend some time to further improve the power of his spiritual sense. 20 years passed like this. Qin Yushu of the Bao Qi Pavilion had perfected Nie Wufeng's wind attribute cultivation method. Relying on his comprehension of the cultivation method, he directly entered the late stage of the Foundation establishment realm. As for the body refining pavilion, Zhao Qingtian reached the peak of the bone tempering stage in the 25th year with the help of poison and the powerful aura of the monster spirit island. This second disciple of Lu Kuan had an astonishing recovery ability. Besides taking poison, he also used talismans. Of course, when he finally tried to break through, he still had to ask Lu Kuan to come out of seclusion. After all, his strong recovery ability meant that when he broke through the bone honing stage, his bones would be quickly repaired during the bone-shattering stage. At present, only Lu Kuan's precise control and experience could help Zhao Qingtian shatter his bones. Because of Zhao Qingtian's strong recovery ability, the talismans from before, body tempering and poison refining were both used in large quantities. Of course, he also experienced a lot of pain. Although the pain he suffered was even more intense than Lu Kuan's, he still persevered. Zhao Qingtian became the first body refining pavilion's first-generation disciples to reach the blood condensation stage. In the 28th year, Sher Chao also successfully broke through and entered the blood condensation stage. Moreover, with the help of the pure spiritual aura, her magic power was very close to ice attribute magic power. Her attack power was greatly increased, and, at the same time, it also had a slight freezing effect. In the 30th year, Huang Xiaoyan also reached the blood condensation stage. Also in this year, Xiao entered the peak of the late foundation establishment stage. However, because her talent was inferior to the others, she seemed to have encountered a bottleneck and was unable to enter the great circle of foundation establishment. Thus, she learned from Lu Xiao and cultivated the spirit sensing technique. In the 33rd year, Yu Xian, the disciple with the lowest talent, also successfully broke through. After entering the blood condensation stage, the power of Yu Xian's primordial fire body refining art increased again. Combined with his newly forged blazing hammer, his combat power was the strongest of the group. In the 35th year, Pan Yin also entered the blood condensation stage. Although he and Huang Xiaoyun entered later with their powerful bodies, their cultivation speed wasn't slow at all. Just the breakthroughs of these disciples were enough to make everyone incomparably happy. This was equivalent to 5 great circle of foundation establishment cultivators. It could be said that they had filled in the 2 great circle of foundation establishment cultivators. Among the others, only when Pan Yin broke through, he had Lu Kuan come out of seclusion to help him. Xiao Yun, Shui, and Yu Xian at most had their senior apprentice brother, Xiao Jin, temper their bones. This was because Pan Yan's bones were incomparably hard when he reached the peak of the bone tempering stage. Even Xiao Jin had to expend a lot of effort to break them. He couldn't control his strength well, so only Lu Kuan could do it. In these years, these body cultivators had only seen Lu Kuan twice. In the 36th year, Treasure Pavilion's Lu Zhao's divine sense greatly increased, reaching the peak of foundation establishment and only a step away from core formation. At the same time, Xiao smoothly broke through the late foundation establishment stage and reached great circle of foundation establishment. The 2 of them entered seclusion to break through to core formation. After all, if one of them succeeded, the other would also benefit from the gathering of spiritual energy. 3 years later, Lu Xiao successfully entered core formation. As for Xiao, even with the help of pills and the abundant spiritual energy here, she still failed to reach core formation. Fortunately, Xiao's mentality was very good. She knew that her talent wasn't high, so this result was within her expectations. In the 40th year, just as Lu Xiao and the others were planning to return to Abyss Island and exchange cultivators step by step, the entire Demon Spirit Island heard a powerful roar. This roar didn't contain any magic power. It was as if it was forcefully produced by a vocal organ. The berserk sound caused the mist in the center of the island to scatter. This sound could it be that Lu Shidi broke through? Lu Xiao, who was standing on the spirit dissension platform, was pleasantly surprised. Standing beside Lu Xiao was Zhao Qingtian. He was overjoyed. It must be Master. He once said that after reaching great circle of viscera forging stage, some of the auxiliary functions of the organs will be greatly enhanced. For example, this roar is completely produced by the powerful lungs. I'm afraid that even some grade 5 demon beasts wouldn't be able to produce this roar. Great, let's go over. Chapter 490. I originally thought that with the help of the poison, I would only need about 30 years to enter the great circle of tempered body. I didn't think that the viscera forging stage would take more time than I thought. It took a full 40 years. In a dust-covered cave, Lu Kuan muttered as he felt the incomparably vigorous Fa Li in his body. Fortunately, little Yun and the others discovered the use of the poison. Otherwise, it would have taken even more time. I didn't expect that my internal organs could hold so much Fa Li. It seems that the heavens still care for me, Lu Kuan. The rest of the time should be enough to prepare for the bone treasure breakthrough. Then Lu Kuan looked at his body and some of the gravel on the ground. He said with satisfaction, after reaching the great circle of viscera forging stage, the vigorous Fa Li aside, just the strength of my internal organs will allow a body cultivator to derive many new methods. For example, when I am fighting with a cultivator, if I suddenly burst out with a roar, it can completely affect the rhythm of the battle. You should know that a normal cultivator's Fa Li shield and a soundproof shield are 2 completely different spells. A roar that contains Fa Li can be blocked by a Fa Li shield. but a roar like mine that doesn't contain FA can only be blocked by a soundproof shield. Lu Kuan's lips curled up. But which cultivator would use a soundproof shield in battle? At this time, a sound transmission talisman suddenly came from outside. Lu Kuan received it in his hand and opened it to listen. He said to himself, "It seems that they all heard the roar just now." So that spiritual energy fluctuation a year ago was caused by senior apprentice brother Lu's core formation success. Saying this, Lu Kuan formed a seal and opened the cave's restriction. After a while, Lu Xiao and the others entered the cave. When they saw the surging FA of Lu Kuan, they were pleasantly surprised. Lu Xiao was especially excited. With his newly advanced core formation strength, he felt that he was evenly matched with the current Lu Kuan. It could be seen that after this breakthrough, Lu Kuan's strength had increased by a lot. Right now, he could probably face a core formation cultivator on his own. If Lu Kuan entered the core formation realm, he would definitely be stronger than Xiao Hongfei. Master, what realm has your strength increased to? Could it be that you have not only reached the peak of the body tempering realm, but also entered the bone treasure stage? Zhao Qingtian was also a body cultivator. He could not imagine that Lu Kuan's body actually had such dense dermic powers. Facing Lu Kuan, he felt immense pressure. From what he could sense, that dermic power was almost twice that of an ordinary cultivator at the Great Circle of Foundation establishment. Hearing this, Lu Kuan withdrew his FA fluctuations and shook his head. "I'm currently at the Great Circle of Viscera Forging, which is also the Great Circle of Body Tempering. If you have such a feeling, it should be because I feel that my theurgy has broken through the last bottleneck, causing my consciousness to take another step forward and reach the core formation stage. As for my dermic powers, I originally did not expect my dermic powers to be so dense. But as I cultivated, I discovered that the 5 viscera and 6 bowels of the human body can contain much more dermic powers than other parts of the body." He sighed. "If not for the help of the pure spiritual energy here, even with the help of the poison, I'm afraid that it would take me 50 to 60 years to reach this stage. Thanks to this dense dermic powers, my confidence in breaking through to the bone treasure stage has increased." Zhao Qingtian's eyes lit up. "Master, you mean to say that breaking through to the bone treasure stage requires dense dermic powers?" Lu Kuan did not answer. Instead, he turned his head and asked, "Senior Lu, for you to successfully form the Aurus core, the most difficult part is the final stage of forming the Aurus core, right?" Lu Xiao nodded and said, "That's right. The final moment of forming the Aurus core is the most important. If your dermic powers, divine sense, or even your mental state is slightly weaker, it will lead to the failure of forming the Aurus core." Lu Kuan then said to Zhao Qingtian, "Because I have not successfully broken through, there are a lot of guesses that may mislead you. But there is one thing that cannot be wrong. That is, in the bone treasure stage, the denser your dermic powers, the better." Then Lu Kuan said, "This time, I have broken through to the perfection stage. I need to go out and make some preparations. I will return to the Abyss City with you. You only need to let Xiao Yin stay here. Qingtian, go to the demonic Qi area. Call out your eldest senior brother and Little Gray. Bring them to the spirit descending platform. From my bloodline, I can sense that Xiao Jin has successfully entered the Viscera Forging stage, which is the standard of a Class 4 demonic beast. Needless to say, Little Gray has definitely reached the level of a Class 3 demonic beast." Zhao Qingtian did not hear anything about the bone treasure stage and immediately revealed a disappointed expression. But he still followed his master's orders and called out Xiao Jin and Little Gray. As for their breakthroughs, Zhao Qingtian already knew. Especially when Xiao Jin broke through, he was excited for a long time. As his eldest senior brother, after Xiao Jin reached the Viscera Forging stage, his strength had greatly increased. He estimated that he would be able to withstand a few attacks from a core formation stage cultivator. As for Little Gray, he was the first to meet Zhao Qingtian and also had the closest relationship. Zhao Qingtian also immediately knew that he had reached the standard of a Class 3 demonic beast. Looking at Zhao Qingtian's back as he left, Lu Kuan said to Pan Yin, Little Yin, I'll have to trouble you a bit during this time. Get some more silver silkworm goo poison as a reserve. Pan Yan's face immediately fell, and he agreed with a headache. Ever since the silver silkworm goo poison knew that Lu Kuan and the others would not harm it, it was fearless. Although Pan Yin could use the soul controlling technique to control it, if this little guy was far away, the soul controlling technique would not be able to control it. So every time he got the poison, Pan Yin would use the earth escape technique to search the ground in the demonic chi area and get close to the silver silkworm goo poison. Senior brother Lu, let's go to the spirit descending platform and wait for the clear sky. Senior brother, you have to tell me about your core formation. After all, everyone's core formation is somewhat different. Lu Xiao smiled and said, let's talk as we walk. I hope it will be of help to junior brother's breakthrough. As they spoke, they left Lu Kuan's cave and flew towards the spirit descending platform. On the surface of the Dead Sea, a man, a woman, and two old men suddenly appeared. Their bodies emitted dense and faint demonic chi. The young man and woman were both at the peak of the foundation establishment realm, while the two old men were at the mid-core formation realm. The two old men were the Li brothers. Their cultivations had already recovered to the mid-core formation realm at an unknown time. As for the young man and woman, their demonic chi was emitting strange fluctuations. They did not look simple either. Li Lao said indifferently, you can choose between the outer seas and the state of chi. But if you go to the state of chi, you may encounter powerful demonic cultivators. If you're captured, you know what to do. When the old man said the last sentence, his voice was incomparably cold. However, the young man and woman repeatedly said yes, as if this was something they should do. When you have collected enough blood and flesh, go to the shore of the Dead Sea and activate the communication Dharma artifact. We will come out and bring you back to the Devil's Denver. Yes, Marshal Uncle. We will go to the sect and bring another batch of disciples here. Just in case, we will bring you into the state of Chu first. Then, you can leave on your own. Chapter 491. In the Abyss Market, there was a restaurant for cultivators. Cultivators who cultivated fire attribute techniques were often the head chef who cooked demonic beast meat and made it into delicious dishes for cultivators to eat. With top-quality ingredients, these delicacies could even slightly increase one's magic power. The third floor of the restaurant was filled with private rooms. They were only reserved for core formation cultivators or foundation establishment cultivators with extraordinary status. The restrictions on the private rooms were connected with the formations of the Abyss Island, completely preventing core formation cultivators from spying on them. At this moment, in a private room on the third floor near the window, a yellow-haired old man with long eyebrows was sitting inside. He carefully observed the cultivators coming and going outside the window. However, his gaze was mainly focused on a shop, Treasure Pavilion. Luckily Huang Mei, was cautious and stayed in the Abyss City. Only then did I discover that this Treasure Pavilion was created by the remnants of the Yang clan. But I don't know where they found that core formation cultivator. Luckily, that core formation cultivator rarely appears. Most of the time, he is in secluded cultivation. However, the Yang clan's former Morning Sun Peak Lord, Zhu Xiaofeng, has actually entered the core formation stage. If it wasn't for Lu Kuan not appearing, I would have found a chance to deal with him long ago. Huang Mei's face was filled with caution. He muttered to himself, Lu Kuan, that guy, was able to take a blow from my magic treasure when he was only in the early foundation establishment stage. And according to Niu, his strength increased after he reached the middle foundation establishment stage. That guy is most likely a genius on the same level as Nia Wufeng. If he enters the core formation stage, he will become a huge threat. Huang Mei's face was filled with hatred. If it wasn't for that guy, I wouldn't have stayed here for 40 years. Although the spiritual chi here is abundant and allowed me to reach the peak of the early core formation stage, without the help of the demonic chi in the sect's back mountain, I wouldn't have been able to break through. The remnants of the Yang clan should have other strongholds outside. Back then, that powerful flying artifact was destroyed by the fellow Taoists from the Nine Underworld sect. However, Lu Kuan and Qin Yushu are disciples of the weapon refining peak. If they were to repair it, I would only alert them. The yellow eyebrows Taoist of the miraculous gate, after Lu Kuan and the others escaped from the land of death, had become extremely cautious. Dozens of years ago, he accidentally discovered that there were remnants of the Yang clan in the Treasure Tool Pavilion, and had been secretly observing. This restaurant's private room had been reserved by him all year round. Although he couldn't use his spiritual sense outside the window, as a completion-leveled cultivator, his eyesight was far superior to that of immortals. Thus, he was able to observe everything that happened in the Pavilion of Treasures for the past 40 years. The members of the Yang clan would take turns going out every 5 years, allowing Huang Mei to guess that they had another stronghold outside. In addition, he also discovered that every once in a while, a cultivator from the Pavilion of Treasures would enter the Abyss Auction House. And on that day, the Abyss Auction House would have a powerful set of spiritual immortal treasures or pseudo-immortal treasures auctioned off. Huang Mei knew all of this very well. As soon as he discovered all of this, he was prepared to make a move when these people were alone. Even though Zhu Xiaofeng was an early core formation cultivator, compared to a veteran core formation cultivator like Huang Mei, there was still a large gap. However, when he discovered that Lu Kuan hadn't appeared, he restrained himself. Afterwards, Huang Mei reported the situation to the sect. His former senior apprentice brother immediately arranged for 2 core formation cultivators to assist him. He wanted him to eliminate the source of trouble and bring back the sentient puppet technique. Lu Kuan, haha, you finally appeared. Just as Huang Mei was thinking, he suddenly saw 5 figures walking towards the Pavilion of Treasures. He had seen the other 4 before. However, there was a tall and sturdy figure that he had never seen before. Although this tall and sturdy man's face had changed, Huang Mei was certain that this person was Lu Kuan. I didn't wait for 40 years in vain. As long as I can take them down and obtain the sentient puppet technique, Martial Uncle will give me a demonic origin pill as a reward. With the demonic chi in the back mountain, my chances of entering the mid-core formation stage will greatly increase. After Huang Mei confirmed that it was Lu Kuan, he didn't look at him any longer. He immediately took out a mirror-like magic tool from his storage bag. His hand flashed with light as if he was sending a message to someone. In the Pavilion of Treasures, other than Pan Yin, the first generation of body cultivators were all in the backyard. They looked at Lu Kuan with excitement. Lu Kuan's tyrannical fa made them look forward to the future. Lu Kuan had twice the magical power of an ordinary cultivator who had completed the foundation establishment stage. Even if Lu Kuan did not use the combat style of a body cultivator, he could easily defeat an ordinary cultivator who had completed the foundation establishment stage by relying on the Thunder Attribute magical arts and pseudo-magical treasures that were activated by his profound magical power. On top of that, the mana of a body cultivator was extremely pure because they didn't use any medicinal pills. Furthermore, Lu Kuan's spiritual sense had already reached the level of the core formation stage. These disciples even believed that Lu Kuan was no different from an ordinary core formation stage cultivator. Lu Kuan looked at the expressions of these disciples and said in a deep voice, "Don't bite off more than you can chew. What you need to do now is to take one step at a time and solidify your foundation in the blood condensation stage. The more stable your foundation is, the more helpful it will be for your future cultivation and even your breakthrough to the bone treasure stage. If your foundation is solid, then when you reach the peak body tempering stage, you will also have such dense FALE. Really? Master has already said so. How can it be false? We just need to cultivate steadily and surely." Lu Kuan saw the excitement on the faces of these disciples, but in his heart he was a little worried. Although the body tempering Great Circle of Body Tempering Realm was much stronger than the average cultivator, the Great Circle of Body Tempering Realm was not easy to cultivate. Take Lu Kuan, for example. If he didn't have the help of the bloodline of the Great Long-Armed Ape and the Spirit Chi of the Demon Island, even if he entered the blood condensation stage, he would still be stuck in the blood condensation stage for at least 30 to 40 years. The Viscera Forging stage was even more time-consuming. It had to be known that Lu Kuan's Imperial Thunder Body Tempering art was already much faster than his disciples' body-tempering cultivation methods. In addition, with the help of the spirit chi of the Demon Island and some poisons, it took him nearly 45 years to reach the blood condensation stage. But without the Demon Island and the poisons, Lu Kuan would have needed at least 80 to 90 years to reach the peak body-tempering stage from the early viscera forging stage. Without the rich spirit chi and other cultivation methods, it would have taken him 130 years to reach the peak body-tempering stage from the early blood condensation stage. This was half a year for a foundation establishment cultivator. Among his disciples, the one with the highest cultivation was Zhao Qingtian. He was still a long time away from reaching the viscera forging stage, but he was only 20 years younger than Lu Kuan. Lu Kuan was around 110 years old this year. In other words, Zhao Qingtian was around 90 years old. Even with the help of the spirit chi of the Demon Island, it would take him 40 years to reach the blood condensation stage and 70 years to reach the viscera forging stage. At that time, Zhao Qingtian would be 200 years old. In the later years of a foundation establishment cultivator, his body would begin to deteriorate due to his lifespan, and the chances of him reaching the bone treasure stage would be even lower. So if he wanted his disciples to break through to the bone treasure stage, he had to find a way to speed up their viscera forging stage cultivation. This was also the reason why Lu Kuan had placed Pan Yin on the island to collect the silver silkworm poison. With enough poison, his disciples' cultivation time would continue to be shortened. Chapter 492. Just as Lu Kuan was deep in thought, the barrier in the backyard of the treasure pavilion opened and two men walked in. One of them looked elegant and graceful, holding a blue feather fan in his hand. The other was fat and had small eyes. They were Qin Yushu and Zhu Xiaofeng. Now that Zhu Xiaofeng was in the early stage of the completion core stage, the Pavilion of Treasures had a lot of confidence. As for Qin Yushu, after reaching the late stage of the foundation building stage, she had not made any moves. However, Lu Kuan knew that her capabilities were comparable to the core disciples of the 10 great sects. After all, Qin Yushu's wind attribute cultivation method was almost perfect, and he had learned most of Niao Wufeng's self-created spells. Plus, he had the help of a pseudo-magic treasure. His strength was definitely at the top of the foundation establishment stage. I heard from Qingtian that Junior's FA Li is abnormally deep. Now that I see it, the 40 years of seclusion is very fruitful. Qin Yushu felt the FA Li that Lu Kuan activated and was pleasantly surprised. Zhu Xiaofeng also exclaimed, "A foundation establishment stage cultivator having such strong FA Li is really unheard of. Junior, you really haven't broken through to the treasure bone stage?" Lu Kuan shook his head and said, "I have only reached the peak of the tempered body stage, which is equivalent to the peak of the foundation establishment stage. This time I came out, I had to make some preparations." Then Lu Kuan thought of something and said, "That's right, Senior Lu successfully broke through and entered the core formation stage." "But Senior do what?" "Really?" Qin Yushu and Zhu Xiaofeng were pleasantly surprised. They immediately looked at Lu Xiao behind them. They saw that the former peak master of the Blue Sun Peak had a gaze like lightning. His FA Li was surging and exuding the unique pressure of a core formation stage cultivator. "Great! Our treasure pavilion has another core formation stage cultivator. Now even if Brother Xiao is not here, we don't have to be afraid of other core formation stage cultivators," Zhu Xiaofeng said ecstatically. Hey, you guys only care about praising Senior Brother Lu, but I'm also quite useful. You should know that Senior Brother Lu was able to form his gold core this time because I was by his side helping him gather spirit chi," Duruo Xiao said in dissatisfaction. Yes, Junior Sister Do, it's all thanks to Junior Sister Do, yes. Fortunately, Senior Sister Do is here. Zhu Xiaofeng and the others, who were in a good mood, immediately started to flatter Duruo Xiao, causing the gloomy mood she had after failing to form her gold core to dissipate. Then, Zhu Xiaofeng and the others asked about the process of core formation. Seeing this, Lu Kuan's lips curled into a smile. Unlike the cultivators in the outside world, even though Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao had entered the core formation stage, they still treated Du Ruoqiao the same way. Lu Kuan turned to his disciples and said, "Now that you've entered the blood condensation realm, there's no need for you to bitterly cultivate on the island. Master will give you a mission." "What mission?" the disciples asked in unison. As they spoke, their eyes flashed with excitement. They had been cultivating in seclusion for so many years. Aside from Zhao Qingtian, who was relatively steady, the others all wanted to go out and test their combat prowess. After all, they weren't like Lu Kuan. They hadn't experienced sect wars, sect annihilation, and countless life and death battles. Their minds had long been tempered to the point of being as firm as a rock. They wholeheartedly wanted to break through to a higher realm. This mission requires you to make a trip to the state of Qi. The state of Qi. Most of the disciples were at a loss. However, Huang Xiaoyan's eyes lit up. His golden devil body could be said to be invincible against devil cultivators. Now that he had entered the blood condensation realm, his attacks were even more powerful. Devil cultivators at the Great Circle of Foundation establishment wouldn't be able to withstand his sneak attacks. Going to the state of Qi would be like a fish in water. Lu Kuan explained, "Your goal is to find all kinds of poisons and poison refining formulas. The more types you collect, the better. The state of Qi is filled with devil cultivators, so there will be even more types of poisons. I remember seeing a sect in the Yang clan that focused on cultivating poisons. You should ask around. As for Panyin, if he goes, he'll probably cause trouble. I'll have him stay on the island. However, all of you must remember one thing. Keep a low profile and don't expose your body cultivator techniques if you can. You should learn this from Little Yun. Also, you can only stay in the state of Qi for 5 years at most. After that, you should come back and cultivate." "Yes, Master," the 4 disciples excitedly replied. Lu Kuan looked at Zhao Qingtian and said, "Qingtian, take Little Gray with you. If you have a spirit beast, it'll be more convenient for you to come back earlier. When the time comes, take them back to Demon Spirit Island." Seeing Zhao Qingtian nod, Lu Kuan waved his hand and said, "You guys discuss the itinerary briefly and then set off." Thus, the disciples walked into a few rooms in the backyard and began discussing. At this time, Zhu Xiaofeng also finished listening to Lu Xiao and Du Ruoqiao's core formation process. He sighed and said, "Sai, junior sister Du, you still haven't let go of what happened back then. You lost your mind at the crucial moment." Hearing this, Du Ruoqiao didn't refute and looked in the direction of the state of Wei. Lu Kuan coughed softly and interrupted, "Senior sister, although the second core formation is very difficult, I think it's better not to give up. If you continue to cultivate the divine sense technique, after your divine sense reaches the phenomenal success stage, it might not be impossible to form the core." Du Ruoqiao's expression changed, and she said with a smile, "Lu Shitty, is your senior sister someone who will give up? All right, I'm going to greet them. You guys chat." With that, Du Ruoqiao walked outside. Lu Xiao said, "Junior brother, don't worry. Your senior sister Du is still very strong-willed. She won't give up on herself." Lu Kuan was a little relieved. He continued, "Senior brothers, I'm going out this time to collect some things in preparation for the breakthrough of a major realm." Hearing this, Zhu Xiaofeng frowned and said, "Junior brother, if there's something to collect, can't we do it?" Lu Kuan shook his head and said, "I'm the only one who can collect such things." Hearing Lu Kuan's words, Zhu Xiaofeng didn't ask any more questions. However, he seemed to have thought of something and clapped his hands. "By the way, junior brother, do you still remember the origin of the black-striped scorpion poison that I told you about?" Lu Kuan was stunned. "I remember. It's the poison produced by the black-striped scorpion's poison sac." Zhu Xiaofeng laughed. "Haha, it's the black-striped scorpion. I know a core formation itinerant cultivator. When he was in the foundation establishment stage, he found a black-striped scorpion swarm in a secret place and knew the exact location. However, according to his description, there were 3 level 5 black-striped scorpions. Unfortunately, I was the only core formation cultivator in the treasure tool pavilion at that time. Even with this friend of mine, we couldn't take down the swarm. Now that there are 2 core formation cultivators in the treasure tool pavilion and you, junior brother, it's a sure thing. Lu Kuan's face lit up. Really? But then he asked doubtfully, so many years have passed. Could it be that the black-striped scorpion swarm is still there? At this time, Qin Yushu added, Junior brother, you may not know this, but under normal circumstances, the black-striped scorpions are buried deep underground and won't easily appear in the outside world. According to senior brother's friend, that place is almost impossible for cultivators to find. Chapter 493. High above the sea, there were 4 cultivators standing on a blue flying boat. 3 of them were Zhu Xiaofeng, Lu Kuan, and Lu Xiao. The remaining one was an honest-looking middle-aged man. The middle-aged man held a jade slip in his hand and was completely immersed in it. From time to time, he would mutter a few words. His magic power fluctuated endlessly. From the pressure of his magic power, it could be seen that he was also an early core formation cultivator. Fellow Taoist Bai, many thanks. I didn't think that you didn't find other cultivators to deal with those black striped scorpions. Zhu Xiaofeng said gratefully after the middle-aged man put away the jade slip. The middle-aged man waved his hand and said, Brother Zhu is too kind. If it weren't for Brother Zhu's help back then, I would probably still be recovering from my injuries. This is nothing. Besides, with fellow Taoist Lu Zhao's help, the 3 of us can completely exterminate those black striped scorpions. Just the pincers and tail of a level 5 black striped scorpion is already a great harvest for me. As the middle-aged man spoke, he looked at the other core formation cultivator, Lu Xiao, who had just advanced. Lu Xiao said modestly, This time, I still have to rely on fellow Taoist Bai. I have just advanced to core formation and don't have a suitable magic treasure. I can only restrain 1 level 5 black, striped scorpion in battle. Fellow Taoist Lu is joking. Fellow Taoist spiritual sense is very refined. Naturally, your cultivation method is not to be underestimated. Even with the help of a magic treasure, you can still unleash a powerful attack. The middle-aged man complimented and then looked at Lu Kuan. He frowned and said, But Brother Zhu, you only brought a foundation establishment cultivator. Isn't that a bit too little? You have to know that besides the 3 level 5 black striped scorpions, there are also many level 3 and level 4 demon insects. If those demon insects unite, the 3 of us will be in trouble. Zhu Xiaofeng smiled and said, Fellow Taoist Bai, don't worry. My martial nephew's escape technique is somewhat profound. He can lead the remaining black striped scorpions away. Also, these low-level demon insects can't fly. They won't be able to affect our battle too much. The middle-aged man nodded, but the slight contempt in his eyes was noticed by Lu Kuan and the others. This middle-aged man was the loose cultivator friend that Zhu Xiaofeng mentioned before by Yunji. He was an early core formation cultivator. 30 years ago, thanks to Zhu Xiaofeng's help, he was able to escape the sneak attack of a level 5 demon beast. After a brief exchange, the 2 of them discovered that they were both cultivators who lived on Abyssal Island, so they got to know each other. Later, Zhu Xiaofeng found out by chance that Bai Yunji knew the whereabouts of the black-striped scorpions, but their strength was not enough to deal with him. Until 3 days ago, when Zhu Xiaofeng brought Lu Xiao to visit Bai Yunji had just ended his seclusion. The few of them hit it off and came out to prepare to deal with this group of black-striped scorpions. Lu Kuan appeared as Zhu Xiaofeng's junior. He only revealed the mana level of an ordinary late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. His powerful mana was truly too shocking, so he didn't want to complicate matters. Zhu Xiaofeng looked at the direction of the flying boat and couldn't help but ask, Fellow Taoist Bai, you told me before that it was almost impossible for cultivators to find that place. Can you tell us where that place is now? Bai Yunji smiled and said, Of course, the black-striped scorpions are located in the Eastern Galloping State. Eastern Galloping State? Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Kuan were stunned after hearing this. Of course, they knew about the Eastern Galloping State. It was the state of Chu that bordered the land of death. Beyond the land of death was the country that they used to live in. Zhu Xiaofeng suddenly understood and said, "No wonder fellow Taoist by said that other cultivators wouldn't find it. It turns out that it's a place with relatively barren spiritual energy. The small sects there only have one core formation cultivator at most, and they can't deal with the black-striped scorpions." Bai Yunji nodded and said, "Yes, 70 or 80 years ago, before I reached the core formation realm, I found traces of the black-striped scorpions in a mountain in the Eastern Galloping State by chance. Then I'll have a trouble fellow Taoist by this time. You're welcome." Next, the green flying boat under their feet sped towards the Eastern Galloping State. Although core formation cultivators could fly, they could save a lot of magic power by using flying magic tools. Moreover, the others on the flying boat could also use the time to cultivate or comprehend secret techniques. It was unknown if Bai Yunji felt that Lu Kuan's magic power was low and couldn't push the flying boat to its maximum speed. Therefore, he didn't let Lu Kuan control the flying boat along the way. Lu Kuan himself was happy to do so. If he were to control the flying boat, it would be difficult to hide the powerful magic power. Now that Lu Kuan was free, he closed his eyes and thought about the purpose of his trip this time. This time, he came out of seclusion to prepare for the bone treasure period. Most importantly, he wanted to obtain another batch of blood refining grass. Zhu Xiaofeng and the others had inquired before. Since the appearance of the Demon Island, the blood refining grass had become more urgent. It seemed that as soon as it appeared on the market, it would be taken by the people of the red refining sect. It seemed that this herb was more useful to them. Since the discovery that the poison refining method was feasible, the cost of the body refining pavilion was not small. In addition, Lu Kuan's time was tight. This time, he planned to personally go to the market around the red refining sect and find a way to get a batch of blood refining grass. Although Zhu Xiaofeng and the others were core formation cultivators, they were far from the body cultivators in terms of restraining their aura. If they went near the red refining sect, it would cause unnecessary trouble. If he went, he could pretend to be an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator. Even if he couldn't buy it, he could destroy some red refining sect disciples and then restrain his aura. It was much more efficient. As for the function of the blood refining grass, of course, it was to refine new blood marrow powder. However, Lu Kuan had already engraved a spirit controlling array on the muscles and fascia of his whole body. What else did he need the blood marrow powder for? Lu Kuan's eyes flickered as he looked at his body. The bone treasure stage is to refine the bones of the whole body into a top magic weapon. To achieve this goal, the spiritual power in the body must transform, just like how an ordinary foundation establishment cultivator condenses the liquid spiritual power into a gold core. What I have to do as a body cultivator is to compress the incomparably tyrannical spiritual power in the body into the bones, transforming the liquid spiritual power into a solid state, and fusing with the bones of the body to form the spiritual power of the bone treasure stage. After that, I will use this transformed spiritual power to repeatedly temper the bones and condense it into a magic weapon. I want to break through to the bone treasure stage now. The most important thing is the transformation of this spiritual power. When the time comes, I need to find a way to compress the spiritual power of the body into the bones. In this way, if there is a lack of spiritual power in the muscles, the effect of the fascia spirit controlling array will be reduced. In other words, the further I compress the spiritual power, the smaller the effect of the fascia spirit controlling array will be. In a later stage, the compression of the spiritual power will face failure. Lu Kuan thought of this and raised his arms. His eyes flashed with a fierce light. Chapter 494. Not only to enhance the effect of spiritual control, but more importantly, after the bone treasure period, I definitely need to carve all kinds of arrays on the bones. Otherwise, how can I refine it into a magic weapon? Lu Kuan's thoughts were very clear. Carving the spiritual control array on the bones was an attempt. It was the first step to refine the whole body's bones as a magic weapon. Moreover, this body bone magic weapon was different from ordinary magic weapons. It had an additional function, which was to improve the cultivation base and condense spiritual power. Carving the spiritual control array was also the most basic requirement. This time my luck is good. There is actually news of the black-striped scorpion. The black-striped scorpion poison collected by the treasure pavilion has been completely consumed. If there is more of this poison, with its help, the chances of a breakthrough will be higher. Lu Kuan thought cruelly in his heart. Although I rely on the spiritual control array to compress the body's spiritual power into the bones, with the black-striped scorpion poison, it will be more thorough. After the black-striped scorpion poison is in my hands, I will go to the vicinity of the red refining sect. If I encounter a core formation cultivator, with my current strength, escaping is definitely not a problem. I can't fight, otherwise the strength of my body will be exposed. Then Lu Kuan used his spiritual sense to scan a few thunder seals on his body. He murmured in his heart, "The thunder seal and the array carving are different, but since I want to carve the spiritual control array on the bones, then the thunder seal must also find a way to condense again. It's best to completely inject it into the bones. In this way, the spiritual power essence of my body will be concentrated in the bones, and the strong physical body brought by the great completion of body tempering will also slowly improve under the influence of the bone treasure period. I still have a divine accumulation pill in my hand that I got from Philosophes. According to the inspiration from the ancient method of core formation, at the critical moment, the skyrocketing power of spiritual sense will be of great help to the solidification of spiritual power. As for other medicinal pills that are useful for traditional immortal cultivators, I have to try to see if it is helpful for body cultivators. While Lu Kuan was deep in thought, the Cyan flying boat traveled along the Shiyuan state, Zhongyun state, Eastern Chu state, and finally arrived at the Dongqi state, where spiritual qi was scarce. Lu Kuan did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the speed of the flying boat was not very fast, and the route it took was not the shortest route. Could it be that he doesn't want to meet other core formation cultivators? Puzzled, Lu Kuan could only think of this. However, his identity on the flying boat was still an ordinary foundation establishment stage cultivator. When there were outsiders, it was not appropriate for him to take the initiative to say anything. Although he was the same as Zhu Siming in the past, his spiritual sense had already reached the early core formation stage when he was still in the foundation establishment stage and could already use sound transmission techniques. It was inevitable that Bai Yunji would be able to hear him. Just like that, the flying boat flew for a distance in the eastern galloping state and actually arrived at a small town that Lu Kuan and the others were somewhat familiar with. Bluestone Town. This small town was the first place where they safely gathered after escaping from the land of death. They did not expect that there would be demonic insects like the black-striped scorpion near such a small town of mortals. Soon, they flew to a mountain range about 20 kilometers behind the small town. Fellow Taoist Bai, it is somewhat inconceivable that the black-striped scorpion would be near a town of mortals. Could it be that they do not eat humans? Zhu Xiaofeng asked doubtfully as they landed outside a narrow canyon that was similar to the one-line sky. Bai Yunji did not answer, but instead asked, "Brother Zhu, I told you before that the strength of an ordinary 5th-grade black-striped scorpion is very strong. At the very least, it is a level higher than an ordinary early core formation stage cultivator. The reason why the 3 of us can deal with it is because these black-striped scorpions are injured and buried here to recuperate. Why would they go out and eat some mortals without any magic power?" Zhu Xiaofeng was somewhat enlightened. Then he looked at the one-line sky and asked, "Fellow Taoist Bai, could it be that this small canyon in front of us is where the black-striped scorpions are located?" An indescribable luster flashed through the depths of Bai Yunji's eyes. He said with a gentle tone, "That's right. In this canyon, there is a hidden cave. In the depths of this cave is the nest of some low-grade black-striped scorpions." When he said this, the nearby Lu Kuan's eyes faintly flickered with golden light. He had sensed Bai Yunji's peculiar expression. Lu Xiao and Zhu Xiaofeng cautiously released their spiritual sense and carefully scanned the canyon. After they finished, Zhu Xiaofeng curiously asked, "But fellow Taoist Bai, I did not discover the existence of any cave here." Bai Yunji smiled and said, rather complacently, After I reached the core formation stage, I came here to set up a concealment spell formation. I didn't expect that I would be able to hide it from the spiritual sense of two fellow Taoists. If the two of you are still worried, you can carefully use your spiritual sense to investigate a location in the center of the canyon. As for the black-striped scorpions, they are deep underground. It is very difficult for our spiritual sense to discover them. Hearing him say this, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao carefully investigated the location he mentioned. Sure enough, there was a concealed fluctuation of a spell formation in one of the locations. Thus, the two of them heaved a sigh of relief. Zhu Xiaofeng said, "Since that is the case, let's discuss how to deal with the black-striped scorpions. Although they are injured, it is still better to be cautious." Bai Yunji clapped his hands and smiled. Even if Brother Zhu did not mention it, I would have mentioned this point. Actually, what we need to do is to lure the 5th-grade black-striped scorpions out from underground. Fighting them in the cave is somewhat risky. Zhu Xiaofeng nodded. That's right. In such a narrow place, core formation stage cultivators like us are really too close to these vicious insects. If they get close to us, it will be very dangerous. Since that is the case, I have a plan. Lu Kuan stood beside them. As he listened to their discussion, he looked around. Although there was a small valley in front of him, there were not many plants inside. Most of them were cyan rocks. The rock walls on both sides of the valley were hundreds of feet high. The higher they went, the closer they got. From his angle, it was like a valley formed by a hole in the mountain. It was very spectacular. Lu Kuan was slightly uneasy. Previously, he noticed that this core formation stage Lu's cultivator, surnamed by his expression, was not right. Clearly, he had other ideas. However, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao believed that the three of them were completely capable of crushing Bai Yunji. Thus, they were not so vigilant. However, Lu Kuan was more cautious. While Bai Yunji was discussing, he did not use his spiritual sense. Instead, he secretly activated his golden eye ability and carefully observed this valley. Something is wrong. Cultivators have been here. With his golden eye divine ability, he could even see through some restrictions that his divine sense couldn't see through. Thus, some of the tiny traces here couldn't escape his eyes. He discovered that in this valley, there were traces of soil being turned over in several places. If it were not for his golden eye ability, even his spiritual sense would not have been able to discover it. What was strange was that there were no beast or human footprints in the surroundings. If these footprints were erased, Lu Kuan would definitely be able to see them. If they did not touch the ground at all, there was an 80 to 90% chance that they were cultivators. Moreover, they were at least foundation establishment stage cultivators. Then he added a bit more spiritual sense into his eyes and carefully looked at these turned areas. When he saw clearly what was in the depths of the soil, Lu Kuan was shocked. Chapter 495. According to what Bai Yunji said just now, when he first reached the core formation stage, he came back here to set up a formation. However, the formation plates in the soil were obviously set up recently. Lu Kuan immediately became vigilant. It turned out that what he saw with his golden eye ability were formation plates. These formation plates were all set up near the cave that Bai Yunji mentioned. Obviously, it wasn't the concealment formation that this core formation Lu's cultivator mentioned. Since it's not a concealment formation, then it must be some other formation. Could it be? Lu Kuan withdrew his golden eye ability and had a few guesses in his heart. As for the other side, the three core formation cultivators discussed for a long time and finally confirmed a more reliable plan. Then it's decided. Brother Lu and I will each use an Earth Escape Talisman. We will enter the cave first and release the Earth Collapse technique together to force the 5th-grade black-striped scorpions out. Brother Zhu, you will meet us outside the cave. After the 5th-grade demonic insects come out, the three of us will face them one by one. Then, Brother Zhu's martial nephew will lead away the 3rd and 4th-grade black-striped scorpions. Zhu Xiaofeng glanced at the slightly serious Lu Kuan and said, "We will set up a trapping formation at the entrance of the valley. Martial nephew only needs to bring these low-grade, black-striped scorpions in. This formation can trap them for at least half an hour. At that time, we should be done fighting. Hearing this, Lu Kuan felt a little strange. This rogue cultivator had entered the cave before Zhu Xiaofeng. Obviously, he was in more danger than Zhu Xiaofeng. Furthermore, the mission given to him was very simple. Even an ordinary cultivator of the perfect foundation stage could complete it. Could it be that I guessed wrong? However, he glanced at the very fresh soil again and made a few plans in his heart. Lu Kuan patted the spirit beast pouch at his waist. Suddenly, a little yellow monkey appeared in front of him. Its body emitted the powerful aura of a fourth-grade demonic beast. Seeing Bai Yunji's somewhat surprised expression, Lu Kuan said, "Senior Bai, this is my spirit beast. With its help, this junior's task should be smoothly completed." Next, with a thought from Lu Kuan, he gave the little monkey a look. The little guy was taken aback for a moment before squeaking. To Bai Yunji, the squeaking sound was no different from that of an ordinary monkey. Bai Yunji scrutinized the demon monkey as a look of surprise flashed in the depths of his eyes. However, he hid it very well. He coughed lightly and said, "That's good. If that's the case, our trip should be foolproof." However, he didn't notice that after Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao heard the little monkey's cry, there was an inexplicable change in their eyes. Zhu Xiaofeng said, "Fellow Taoist Bai, I happen to have a set of entrapment formations in my hands. It's quite useful against monsters below the 5th rank. I'll place it at the entrance of the valley first. Fellow Taoist Bai, you should also replenish your magic power. Although the consumption of magic power during the flight is very small, it's still better to have plenty of magic power." Bai Yunji revealed a strange smile and said, "Brother Zhu is right. I will recover my spiritual energy now." Next, Zhu Xiaofeng walked toward the entrance of the valley. He took out a set of formation plates and began to arrange it. After about a cup of tea's time, he arranged a large formation at the entrance of the valley. It almost blocked the entire entrance of the valley. "Junior brother Lu Xiao, you come and test the strength of this formation." "That's right. Martial nephew, you come over too. I'll teach you the method of controlling this formation." Bai Yunji heard Zhu Xiaofeng's voice and didn't care. He previously told Zhu Xiaofeng that there were about 10 3rd and 4th rank black-striped scorpions, so it was reasonable to test the formation. When the 3 people and 1 monkey walked to the entrance of the valley, Bai Yunji's eyes flashed with a strange color. He took the opportunity to urge his magic power and inject a spell into a magic tool in his arms. Then, he looked at the formation in the distance that was activated and heard some attack fluctuations coming from inside. He sneered in his heart and continued to restore his magic power. After about a meal's time, the formation light curtain at the entrance of the valley disappeared, revealing the figures of Zhu Xiaofeng and the other 2. At this time, Bai Yunji also got up and walked toward the valley. "Fellow Taoists, my magic power has been fully restored. Let's go now." Although there is some distance between here and the black-striped scorpions, the vibration just now may have alerted them. Bai Yunji called Zhu Xiaofeng and the others and walked toward the valley. The valley was 4 or 5 miles deep. The cave that Bai Yunji mentioned was only 3 miles away from them. They soon arrived at the entrance of the cave. At this moment, everyone, including Lu Kuan, discovered the concealment spirit design of the cave entrance. Zhu Xiaofeng and the others extended their spiritual senses and discovered that the concealment spirit design could even block out spiritual senses. It was extremely mysterious. "This is a set of formation plates that I bought from the Star Moon Pavilion. I'll open it now." While speaking, Bai Yunji made a spell. Soon, the concealing formation gradually dissipated, revealing the dark entrance of the cave. But just as Zhu Xiaofeng and the others looked at the cave, a fiery red jade ruler suddenly shot out from Bai Yunji's body and fiercely attacked Zhu Xiaofeng, who was closest to him. Near the cave, a faint layer of light curtain appeared at an unknown time. At the same time, 2 powerful magic treasures flew out from the pitch-black cave and shot towards Lu Kuan and Lu Xiao respectively. In an instant, Zhu Xiaofeng and the other 2 were besieged by 3 powerful magic treasures. The corner of Bai Yunji's mouth curled up. He already understood Zhu Xiaofeng very well. Zhu Xiaofeng cultivates a wood attribute cultivation method, and his magic treasure is a long sword. Bai Yunji cultivates the famous fiery demon arts in the sect. It can be said that he completely restrains his opponent. Not to mention, he launched a sneak attack at such a close distance. Normal core formation cultivators would not be able to react in time. Boom! Before Bai Yunji's smile could form, he found that the three people in front of him were already prepared. Their magic power was like the opening of a reservoir and instantly exploded. Zhu Xiaofeng summoned a light green longsword in a timely manner and blocked Bai Yunji's jade ruler attack. However, although this attack was blocked, the light on the green longsword dimmed significantly. On the other side, Lu Xiao, although he did not have a magic treasure, he immediately took out a round magic treasure and threw it at the golden flying sword. Under Lu Xiao's control, this round magic treasure exploded the moment it blocked the flying sword, sending it flying. His magic treasure was actually a top-notch, self-destructing magic treasure. The power of this magic treasure was enough to block this attack. As for the magic treasure that was flying towards Lu Kuan, it was a long black blade. It emitted a violent demonic aura. Among the three magic treasures, it was the most powerful one. It was at least at the peak of the early core formation stage. Lu Kuan had already taken out 2 long rods. His body emitted a series of cracking sounds. A surge of magic power that would shock normal foundation establishment cultivators erupted. His body also began to expand. The thick muscles on his arms bulged. The purplish-black blood vessels were like coiling snakes. It was abnormally ferocious. His entire body emitted a ferocious aura. For a moment, it actually suppressed the fluctuations of the other people's battle. Lu Kuan's 2 rods merged into one and became a long rod, as thick as the mouth of a bowl. Purple lightning curled around the rod. Boom! Amidst a loud noise, the black saber, which had an astonishing aura, was actually sent flying. How is this possible? Chapter 496. How can this Lu Kuan's strength be so terrifying? He's only at the foundation establishment stage, yet he's able to unleash such a powerful attack, the old man in the cave muttered. Not only the old man, but the other core formation cultivator in the cave and Bai Yunji outside were also shocked by Lu Kuan's explosive power. Lu Kuan, who had unleashed his full power, had a surging dermic power that was more than twice as strong as that of a normal foundation establishment cultivator. Under their divine senses, they could see everything clearly. The strange phenomenon on his arms was even more ferocious. Just as the 3 enemies were in disbelief at Lu Kuan's explosive power, the corner of Lu Kuan's mouth curled up. His entire body disappeared in a thunderous roar. Not good. Quickly fly away. The old man in the cave seemed to be aware of Lu Kuan's incomparably fast escape technique and immediately cried out in alarm. But before he could shout, the tall and sturdy figure had already appeared behind Bai Yunji. The long staff, which was as thick as a bull's mouth, expanded a bit in an instant. It was mixed with lightning that was comparable to a mid-grade spell, and it blasted towards Bai Yunji's magic barrier. Bai Yunji was, after all, an early core formation cultivator. Moreover, he had already memorized Lu Kuan's information by heart. Under the old man's reminder, he quickly reacted. His red jade ruler moved at will, and promptly flew behind him to defend. Bang! Without any suspense, the old man's long blade was sent flying by Lu Kuan's attack. This hastily defended jade ruler was simply unable to withstand this terrifying attack. However, Bai Yunji also took advantage of this gap to soar into the air. His heart was drenched in cold sweat. From the attack just now, he clearly felt a savage power similar to that of a 5th or 6th grade demon beast. How is this a human cultivator? How can a human's body explode with such power? It's completely a 5th or 6th grade demon beast draped in human skin. Moreover, this attack was mixed with a lightning-type spell. Core formation cultivators wouldn't pay attention to a normal mid-grade spell. It was only a spell released by an ordinary peak foundation establishment cultivator. But Lu Kuan's huge staff's lightning was equivalent to the power of 2 or 3 top-grade lightning-type spells stacked together under his tyrannical magic power. Boom! With a loud sound, a burst of lightning flashed under Lu Kuan's feet, and a faint layer of restriction light curtain appeared on ground. A few ripples appeared on the light curtain. His tall and sturdy figure soared into the sky, closely chasing after by Yunqi. Brat die! The core formation cultivator in the cave let out a roar. Ignoring Zhu Xiaofeng and Zhu, the black long blade and the golden flying sword Qi directly rushed towards Lu Kuan in the air. Base was Lu's words, Lu Kuan's, Lu Kuan's, Lu Kuan's, Kuan's Chi-Chi's. But in the air, Lu Kuan had no leverage and was unable to move. He was a living target. How could the two old fogies let go of such an excellent opportunity? Lu Xiao and Zhu Xiaofeng's expressions changed. They knew Lu Kuan's defense was extremely strong, but no matter how strong it was impossible for him to take the attacks of two magic treasures head-on. Just as they were about to make a move to block the attack, two flying daggers with slightly dimmed lights flew towards them. They still have other magic treasures. No, they're pseudo-magic treasures. Although they were pseudo-magic treasures, in the hands of a core formation cultivator, they could still display considerable power. Their expressions changed. Originally, they planned to save Lu Kuan, but they could only deal with these two flying knives. In the air, Bai Yunji's face lit up. He madly poured his magic power into the Balrog ruler. In his opinion, facing two magic treasures, Lu Kuan could only use his weapon to block. At that time, it would be his opportunity to seriously injure Lu Kuan. But who knew that in the air, Lu Kuan would turn a blind eye to the black long knife and golden flying sword flying towards him. His arms became even thicker as he stared fixedly at Bai Yunji. Just as the two magic treasures were about to attack him, Lu Kuan's tyrannical magic power fluctuated. Flight! Bai Yunji cried out involuntarily. Lu Kuan leaped into the air as if he was lifting a heavy weight. Then, he leaped several feet into the air, and with a flip of his body, he kicked the restrictive spell that was trapping them midair. Borrowing the force of this kick, the giant staff carried a glaring purple electric light and fiercely smashed towards Bai Yunji, who was hastily defending himself in the air. Lu Kuan's attack came from above. Borrowing force from his legs, he exerted the strength of his entire body to the extreme. The brute force of this attack almost reached the terrifying level of 170,000 pounds. That hasty red jade ruler was simply unable to resist. After it was sent flying, Lu Kuan's giant staff bombarded Bai Yunji's magic power barrier. Although the barrier of a core formation stage cultivator was much stronger than that of a foundation establishment stage cultivator, it was still very difficult for it to withstand a magic treasure level attack. Just as Bai Yunji's barrier was about to shatter, this core formation stage cultivator finally recovered from the shock of Lu Kuan's brute force. A red light flashed in his hand and a bronze jade pendant appeared. Immediately after, a bronze-yellow barrier flashed from the jade pendant. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Lu Kuan's extremely powerful attack was blocked by the jade pendant's barrier. Even so, Bai Yunji, who was protected by a powerful defensive measure, was still bombarded to the ground by the brute force. Because the ground here was covered by a restriction, Bai Yunji's body was not blasted into the ground. This was equivalent to his defense receiving another attack. Bai Yunji's face was slightly pale. This defensive jade pendant consumed a lot of magic power. Fortunately, he finally recovered from Lu Kuan's lightning-fast surprise attack. Clang! 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 After Lu Kuan attacked Bai Yunji, he had no time to pay attention to him. The giant staff in his hand had already been split into two. His two hands danced rapidly, blocking the saber and sword that were besieging him. The two core formation stage cultivators in the cave reacted extremely quickly. Previously, in order to increase the power of their magic treasures, they had reduced the speed of their magic treasures. After knowing that Lu Kuan could fly, they immediately changed their strategy and treated Lu Kuan as a core formation stage cultivator. The two of them reduced the power of their magic treasures and increased the speed of their attacks. After the previous exchange, These experienced core formation stage cultivators knew that although Lu Kuan's attack power was strong, he mainly relied on his physical strength. Physical strength had a very short time to accumulate power. As long as they increased the speed of their attacks, Lu Kuan wouldn't be able to display the power of his previous attacks. This was indeed the case. Faced with the two magic treasures, Lu Kuan had no choice but to disassemble the meteoric staff and use two pseudo-magic treasures to block the continuous attacks. Even though his physical body had reached the peak of body tempering, he still didn't dare to face the magic treasures head-on. Bai Yunji, who had been suppressed below, finally recovered. He glanced at Lu Kuan, who was being besieged by magic treasures. This strange cultivator who had caused him to be in such a difficult situation was now being entangled by his two senior martial brothers. When Bai Yunji saw this, he clenched his teeth. A black light flashed in his hand, and a red and black iron ball appeared. He looked at Zhu Xiaofeng and Zhu Xiaofeng, who were working together to cast magic treasures. They had already beaten the two pseudo-magic treasures into a dull state. Chapter 497. Bai Yunji revealed a pained expression. He pinched a mysterious incantation, and a magic ball emitted waves of fire attribute and demonic spiritual energy at the same time. Then, the iron ball blasted towards Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao, who were preparing to support Lu Kuan. In that instant, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao felt an extremely dangerous aura emanating from the red and black magic ball. Zhu Xiaofeng's expression changed, and he took out 3 magic balls without hesitation and fiercely smashed them towards the red and black magic ball. When Lu Xiao saw this, he also took out the same number of magic balls and threw them towards the ball. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of berserk energy overflowed, and violent explosions occurred in the area between Zhu Xiaofeng and Bai Yunji. The might of the explosions almost reached the level of a mid-core formation cultivator. Surging heat waves mixed with red and black smoke pervaded the air. A pungent fishy smell also spread out. Ha ha! Old yellow-browed devil. Could it be that your junior martial brother doesn't know that our Yiyang clan is most proficient in tool refinement? He actually used this type of explosive magic tool to attack. You should know that the number of top-notch, self-destructing magic tools we refined isn't limited to this number. Lu Kuan looked at the cave with a mocking expression and laughed madly. He seemed to have already known that the one chasing him inside the cave was the yellow-browed Taoist from the miraculous gate. As if confirming Lu Kuan's words, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao both took out the same number of self-destructing magic balls. They didn't immediately throw them out. Instead, they secretly added a faint layer of light around their core formation cultivator's barriers. The 3 enemies didn't notice this. Instead, they vigilantly looked at the magic balls in their hands. Looking at the posture of the 2 Yiyang clan's core formation cultivators, the target of their self-destructing magic tools seemed to be inside the cave. This caused the 2 magic treasures besieging Lu Kuan to pause. Huang Mei and the other core formation cultivator from the Demon Spirit sect were extremely vigilant. They hid inside the cave to conceal themselves and launch sneak attacks on the enemy. At the same time, they used the cave to defend themselves. If Zhu Xiaofeng and the others threw the 6 self-destructing magic tools into the cave, they would definitely be injured in such a narrow space. As a result, the magic treasures attacking Lu Kuan subconsciously relaxed and prepared to defend themselves at any time to prevent the self-destructing magic tools from entering the cave. Damn it, the remnants of the Yiyang clan are so rich. Just the materials of the 10 top-notch, self-destructing magic tools are no less than 2 magic treasures. Yet they were willing to use them all in one go. In the cave, Yellow's eyebrows raised. I don't believe you have more self-destructing magic tools. Just as Huang Mei was exasperated, Lu Kuan, who was in midair, took a deep breath. His chest expanded outwards, and his strong chest muscles stretched the black warrior suit on his body. Roar! A roar that was several times louder than a thunderclap burst out of Lu Kuan's mouth. In this small area, the The reddish-black smoke that had been produced by the explosion of the artifact seemed to have been struck by an invisible force and exploded in all directions. Bai Yun, who was hiding in his copper-yellow turtle shell, widened his eyes and his face twisted. He subconsciously covered his ears and let out a blood-curdling scream. The two magic treasures besieging Lu Kuan trembled and fell down as if they had lost control. Lu Kuan took advantage of this opportunity and arrived outside the cave in a flash. He stopped roaring. He took another breath, and the internal muscles in his lungs violently contracted. At the same time, the vocal muscles in his throat changed shape. Ah! An extremely sharp and ear-piercing scream that was completely different from the previous roar appeared in the cave. This cave was only a small enclosed space. After the shrill scream entered, it was bounced back and forth by the walls, increasing the intensity by several times. It completely covered the screams of the two core formation cultivators. When Lu Kuan unleashed the terrifying power of the viscera-forging body cultivator into the cave, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao didn't seem to be affected in the slightest. They gathered all of their core formation magic power and activated all of the self-exploding magic balls in their hands, smashing them into the cave. Then, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao activated their cyan long sword and a pseudo-magic treasure respectively. Lu Kuan took advantage of the fact that his lungs still had enough air to maintain a few breaths of screaming. Two purple-black balls of lightning appeared around his body. He tightened his grip on the pair of rods in his hands and directly rushed in. Boom, boom, boom. Bang, bang, bang. Bursts of violent fluctuations came from the cave. The mountain walls connected to the cave trembled incessantly. Gravel fell from above and bombarded the light barrier outside. The saber and the sword outside the cave trembled as they moved into the cave. After a few breaths of time, Lu Kuan's scream stopped. The saber and the sword seemed to have been injected with new energy as they rushed into the cave at an even faster speed. But as soon as they reached the cave entrance, they fell down like a kite with a broken string. The magic power fluctuations above also calmed down. Outside, Bai Yunji, who was bleeding from his ears, saw this phenomenon and his face became deathly pale. Then, he saw a tall and sturdy figure walk out of the cave. Each of his hands was dragging a corpse. The two corpses were wearing black robes. Their heads were already flattened, as if they had been smashed by something heavy. There was no longer a trace of life. The tall and sturdy man revealed a pair of white teeth to Bai Yunji. TSK, TSK. This senior of the miraculous gate has extraordinary talent. He discovered a way to resist my secret technique so quickly. He has already covered himself with a layer of soundproof barrier. Originally, when Bai Yunji's nerves were ruptured by the first roar, he discovered that his defensive magic artifact had no effect at all. His heart was filled with despair. Although this roar couldn't kill them, the terrifying sound directly shattered his eardrums, causing him, a core formation cultivator who had never experienced physical pain before, to be in so much pain that he wanted to die. He couldn't continue fighting at all. Fortunately, Lu Kuan's second roar was aimed at the cave, allowing him to regain a trace of clarity. He discovered that Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao were not affected in the slightest. Only then did he notice that there was an additional layer of soundproof barrier on their bodies. Thus, he immediately released this incomparably simple spell for a core formation cultivator. But who would have thought that in such a short time, the two core formation cultivators who were more powerful than him were actually killed by Lu Kuan just like that? Their heads were smashed into a pulp, and even their souls were destroyed. Lu Kuan, when Bai Yunji saw Lu Kuan, Zhu Xiaofeng, and the other two surrounding him, he stuttered, unable to speak. At this time, he had no way to escape. The restriction outside was temporarily set up by Huang Mei. At that time, he was still on the flying boat with Lu Kuan and the others, so he had no idea how to open the restriction. This was originally an entrapment formation used to deal with Lu Kuan and the others, but now he was a turtle in a jar. Even if he had a life-saving escape technique, he could not use it at this time. Lu Kuan looked at the incomparably flustered Bai Yunji and said indifferently, "I didn't expect the miraculous gate to send 3 core formation cultivators at once. Moreover, you knew Senior Zhu more than 30 years ago." The other two must have arrived at the Abyss City around that time. Chapter 498. Lu Kuan, how did you discover us? I thought I did it perfectly, but I didn't expect your strength to increase so much. Your physical strength is comparable to a 5th grade or 6th grade demonic beast. When did the Yang clan have such a powerful technique? Bai Yunji knew that he was no match for the people in front of him. It should be said that Lu Kuan alone could kill him in such an enclosed environment. He simply asked the biggest question in his heart. When Lu Kuan entered the Abyss City, his senior brother, the Yellow Eyebrows Taoist, had informed him to prepare to take action and use the black-striped scorpions as bait to lure them to this place. It would be convenient for them to return to Wei Nation immediately after killing them. Many years ago, the Yellow Eyebrows Taoist had discovered that the black-striped scorpion poison was something they urgently needed. Although they didn't know what use this poison would have for a refining sect like the Yang clan, it didn't hinder them from setting up a trap. It was also during that time that the Yellow Eyebrows Taoist sent a message back to the Miraculous Gate. The new nascent Soul Cultivator sent 2 early-stage core formation cultivators to help in order to be foolproof. Bai Yunji was a cultivator who had entered the core formation realm after the Yang clan was destroyed. Because he didn't show up during the battle with the Yang clan, Zhu Xiaofeng and the others didn't recognize him. Moreover, Bai Yunji cultivated the Fiery Devil technique. As long as he didn't use his full strength, it would only look like an ordinary fire tribute technique. Therefore, the task of befriending Zhu Xiaofeng was given to him. This time, Zhu Xiaofeng took the initiative to come to him. However, they didn't expect that the last carefully arranged trap would be discovered by the 3 people from the Yang clan. They were prepared and resisted the first wave of sneak attacks. Lu Kuan also showed strength beyond their imagination. Under the attack of the strange sound, he killed 2 of his senior brothers in one fell swoop. If Bai Yunji successfully completed the task this time, the elders in the sect would look at him in a new light. All kinds of rewards would also be helpful to his cultivation. With these, he could even enter the middle stage of the core formation realm within 50 years. But who would have thought that they would run into the vigilant Lu Kuan? He was extremely dissatisfied and wanted to know what they had overlooked. Lu Kuan smiled gently and said, I can't answer your first question, but I can answer your second question. The cultivation method I cultivate is completely self-created. The Yang clan doesn't have such a cultivation method. After Bai Yunji heard this, he almost choked on his own saliva. Self-created? His face was filled with disbelief. Could it be that the rumor about the disciples who participated in the Shangqing sect was true? Bai Yunji couldn't help but recall the rumors about Lu Kuan's cultivation method. They all said that Lu Kuan had created a kind of body refining cultivation method. His body was as terrifying as a demonic beast's, and he was almost invincible among cultivators of the same level. Lu Kuan looked at the shocked core formation stage cultivator and shook his head. A purplish-black ball of lightning appeared in his hands. His fists carried a powerful sonic boom as they bombarded the sturdy shield that was still emitting a copper-yellow radiance. Bai Yunji was sent flying. Bai Yunji immediately came to his senses. He glared at Lu Kuan with hatred in his eyes. A destructive energy was being nurtured in his body. Lu Kuan, I won't let you have it easy either. Lu Kuan's pupils dilated as he sensed an aura that threatened his life. He immediately roared, Shout, Jean. Do it. Poochie. A crisp sound came from outside the restriction that surrounded them, causing the surrounding shield to dim. Almost at the same time, Lu Kuan fiercely threw the ball of lightning in his hands forward. Holding the meteoric rod with both hands, he smashed it towards Bai Yunji, whose face was becoming more and more distorted. Boom! The outer restriction shield was first smashed by the ball of lightning, leaving only a thin layer of film. Then, it was completely shattered by Bai Yunji, who was sent flying. Bai Yunji only flew a little more than 10 feet away from the shield. A red and black radiance erupted from his body and then exploded. The terrifying power of this explosion was almost equivalent to the full force attack of a core formation stage cultivator. Lu Kuan and the other two stood in a triangle. Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao stood behind them. The two core formation stage cultivators formed a protective shield that enveloped the three of them. On the other hand, Lu Kuan combined his two stave into one and started to spin rapidly in front of him. A layer of purple barrier appeared around his body and stuck close to his skin. Just as they finished doing all this, the reddish-black energy from the explosion rushed over. Zhu Xiaofeng's green longsword and Lu Zhao's pseudo-magic treasure shone brightly and bombarded the energy. In just an instant, a trace of red appeared on their faces, and their magic treasures were sent flying. Although the outer layer of the protective shield was very strong, it was still insufficient in the face of an attack of this level. Under the support of Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Zhao's magic power, it only lasted for 5 or 6 breaths of time before shattering. Immediately after, the greatly weakened energy engulfed them. The overflowing energy spread in all directions, causing the nearby rocky cliffs to tremble. A large amount of rocks fell from above, stirring up waves of dust. Not long after, a little monkey hurriedly shot towards them. It was squeaking and had a worried expression. The power of the explosion just now had frightened it. Boom! A pile of rocks flew in all directions. Lu Kuan stood up from the pile of rocks. His clothes were tattered, and there were traces of burns on his body. His exposed skin had several small black spots. Then, Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao behind him also stood up. Their faces were still in shock, but under Lu Kuan's protection, they did not receive any injuries. I didn't expect Bai Yunji's demonic arts to be so strange. He actually cultivated a fire-attributed demonic power. The power of the self-detonation of his golden core is so strong. Zhu Xiaofeng said with a face of lingering fear. Lu Kuan patted the dust off his body. He did not pay attention to Zhu Xiaofeng's words. Instead, he looked at the black spots on his arm in surprise. These black spots were surging into his body. He frowned and his heart violently contracted. A surge of qi and blood power erupted from his body, surging endlessly. At the same time, traces of lightning appeared outside his body and entered it. Junior brother, are you okay? Zhu Xiaofeng and Lu Xiao were startled by this movement. The two of them saw the strange phenomenon outside Lu Kuan's body and immediately became worried. Lu Kuan closed his eyes and frowned slightly. It seemed that he was resisting something inside his body. After about 10 minutes, he gradually withdrew his qi and blood power, and his magic power fluctuations calmed down. He slowly opened his eyes. His eyes flashed with a strange color, mixed with a bit of surprise. Junior brother, what happened just now? What were those black spots on your body? Lu Kuan heard and said slowly, those black spots just now should be the pure demonic power that Bai Yunji cultivated. It was mixed in with the self-detonation attack. The self-detonation attack was done by the two senior brothers. The power of the self-detonation attack was only at the level of the early core formation realm. In the end, it was weakened by the meteoric rod and the defensive thunder shield, and the attack power was reduced by more than half. My physical body could completely withstand it, but the demonic power inside seeped into my body. Fortunately, my physical body is strong, and the power of lightning also has a restraining effect on demonic power. It has been completely eliminated. That you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.